Okay, my dudes, we are live. This is going to be very exciting here where we are going through our newest Flock Patreon Dynasty Startup Draft. Now, we are, of course, in this league. This is a real money draft, so I think what you're going to be finding is a ton of useful data points for real Dynasty value, not just mock drafts that people are accumulating and then going, here's some ADP. No, this is a real money draft with everybody over there on Patreon. Let me real quick go send out this message in our Discord chat so I can let everybody know that we are live to come out here. Please let me know if the volume and everything is okay. Let me pull up the live stream. Okay, it looks like we got a lot of people in here. We got Domcos, we got Kevin. Guys, Kevin out in the premieres all the time is in this league. You're going to see the same profile pic whenever I switch it over to Sleeper in just 1 second. And I think that honestly should be about it for everything we have to do. Let me go through, just check the general chat, see if we have any questions or anything we need to go through and talk about. And then I will get up the draft board because, like I said, this is a real league. So this has a ton of trades in it. I mean, this maybe has more trades than our last Flock Patreon startup draft. And also, one big announcement that I have to make is we are having a new announcement for a new Flock Patreon league that is going to be opening up. I don't want to say when the league is officially drafting, but the announcement will be made on Patreon tomorrow night. So I know a lot of people have been wanting to get in that league. So just be on the lookout for Patreon, be on the lookout for Discord, because I will send out the announcement on both of them tomorrow night. Okay, so yeah, Baka coming in says, smash that like. Yes, sir, over 20 likes 1 minute into the live stream. Let me go through, change some windows real quick, and let's show this sleeper board. Okay, so like I said, guys, there are a ton of trades that went down in this league. So we actually pulled the 101, and this is going to be a tight end, super flex, and a third round reversal draft. So we pulled the 101, but I mean, we actually have to go through and sit out picks for a very long time, because after the 101, you go all the way to the 212. And instead of getting the 301, it goes back over here to try to balance it out to make sure that it's not too unfair for the people picking at the very beginning. And of course, we made it a third round reversal before we did the random drawing for the spots before we got the 101. And I try to switch it back. I try to make sure it wasn't a third round reversal before we got drafting, after we drew the draft spots. But of course, nobody was having that. So let's pull up. We've made a ton of trades. So another notable thing with this league is it is going to be a best ball format as well. This is the second Dynasty Best Ball League we've been starting. We've started 10 Dynasty leagues this offseason over there on Patreon, and this is the second best ball one. So yeah, we went through, we traded the 101, and I know it looks like we just made one big trade trading the 101 for all these picks, but no, this is the accumulation of a lot of different deals. I mean, I believe we made about 4 or 5 trades in this league, but that's not anything close to what the other people made. I mean, Super Pack's out here dealing nonstop. You can see his draft picks here. I mean, unbelievable the amount of trades that he made. Then we can go through it, and you're just going to see that everybody in this draft is kind of all over the board. Here's Zach, someone from the original 2019 Flock Patreon, and he gets in this draft. He gets in here later than most people. He actually joined earlier today because someone backed out at the last minute. They couldn't make the draft, so Zach takes their spot. He didn't necessarily have a fair shot to go through and make everybody else have the same amount of offers that Super Packs probably did. But Juice made a lot of trades as well. I mean, you see that he's picking at the very top here, the 101 and the 102. Then really nothing for a very long time. Then he's loaded up here in the 10th round. And then we go through TFG, no trades. The one person who's made no trades, Cherry Duck, a lot of trades here as well. Then we go through Benny, Cardigan, Kevin. Kevin made one small deal here. And Collegiate Money and Spence Dog. Okay, so y'all, I'm pretty sure have had a good idea of what the draft is actually looking like. So please let me know what y'all are thinking. If there was a team that stands out to you with the amount of picks that they have that you think is going to have a good start this draft, because obviously this is a crazy board that you're not going to be seeing with just a mock draft, because this is a real league. You can do fun stuff like this and really change it up here. Just making sure we have everybody understanding where these picks belong to. This draft is going to start in about 90 seconds. So we can go through, spend a little bit of time looking at the live chat. Let me make sure real quick, actually, on my phone that there are no more trades that we need to process. because there have been just so many deals getting done. So it will probably keep my phone here until we get the start of this draft, and then we can go through and we can. Okay, let's just make sure I don't have any trade offers sitting out there. Okay, we have no trade offers sitting out there. Okay, so we'll put up this phone when we start the draft, and that will be the end of trading until we get after the live draft. Okay, so Jay Nye says, I'll be taking a nap after the 102. Oh, okay, so we go through. Juice is Jay Nye. That is good to know. Okay, so Aaron says, excited to see how the third round reversal changes some things up. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to see with the third round reversal just because so many trades have already been made that it's hard to see how that actually impacted teams. I will say that I think from a value standpoint, it probably balances out things a decent amount. And that's what I said with more Flock Patreon startup drafts. We are most likely going to be doing them third round reversal as well. Okay, so now let's go through. And Daniel's saying, any chance we get to see a Superflex IDP mock? I'm actually participating in a $500 Dynasty Superflex IDP league right now that's in a startup. I'm not broadcasting it or anything. I actually have a few co-owners that someone invited me to help out with this team, a part of the flock, so I was excited to do that. And I'll definitely make a video breaking down that draft for everybody when we get done with that. Okay, so now let's go through. Taryn says, Mason, my man, glad I made it out to these drafts live. Man, I'm happy to see you out here. Taryn, just got that podcast breakdown for you over there on Patreon. Okay, so let's just real quick. I'm sorry, guys. It looks like one more trade went through that we need to process. Like I said, I mean, literally probably every 10 minutes, this league has had a new trade that I've had to go through and just get that notification on my phone. Okay, so let's process that trade, refresh it, and then let's start this draft. Okay, so like I said, guys, we traded out of the 101. We made a couple cascading trades down where we were trying to pick up as many picks as we can in rounds 4, 5, and 6, given the fact that this is a best ball format. So yeah, we don't get to pick until the 212. It's going to be very boring for us here. Okay, also, guys, if you have not dropped a like on the live stream yet, please go down there, drop a like. Nobody else is providing real money live Dynasty startup drafts. This takes a ton of work, and I know this probably gives you a better idea of actual Dynasty value compared to any other type of content you can ever see. So please go down there, drop that like. Definitely helps out a ton. Okay, so now let's go through, and Josh is asking, he says, Superflex Dynasty, which stack would you take, Stafford and Woods or Hurst and Devonta Smith? There, I think we would prefer Matthew Stafford and Robert Woods. Okay, so a very standard start here. You have Mahomes 101, Christian McCaffrey 102. Okay, so Jay Nye gets the two guys I'm pretty sure everybody knew he was going to be taking there. That should be no surprise to nobody. And of course, this is where it gets a little bit interesting to see what the difference in value is going to be between the running back and quarterback position. In the majority of these drafts, you have just that position on a run, at least that group of positions for the first 2 rounds here. So it's going to be interesting to see if they go quarterback heavy with Kyler Murray, with Josh Allen, with Dak Prescott, or if they decide to go on the running back with guys like Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, and obviously all of those players. Okay, so let's go through. Baca says, no chance Lance last until the 212. Okay, so with Trey Lance, guys, I know that if you are watching this as a video later on or possibly a new member of the stream, yes, you would probably be assuming that Trey Lance would last until the 212. But given how much I love Trey Lance and given how adamant we have been that Trey Lance is a massive, massive value in drafts right now, I would be very surprised if anybody lets Trey Lance fall to us at the 212. I'd imagine that most people are going to be excited to snipe us on that pick. But Jonathan Taylor goes at the 103. That is notable. Usually we've been seeing Jonathan Taylor go around here at the 107, the 108, but I think that there's no wrong answer between Jonathan Taylor, Kyler Murray, and Josh Allen. Even though I know the majority of people at this point would most likely be going with Josh Allen, I think that we would actually prefer Kyler Murray. Okay, so the Nick says, just traded TJ Hawkinson and 2 future first for Darren Waller, a 2023 first and a 2024 first. Okay, so man, essentially you traded TJ Hawkinson, 2 2022 first for Darren Waller and 2 first later on. I do prefer the Darren Waller side of that trade, even though I don't necessarily love the idea of trading for picks that are all the way out in 2024. Okay, so it looks like Josh Allen does go at the 105. So nothing completely off the board here. This is very, very standard for a flock league. What's nice is to see that everybody's able to be in the chat. I know that we had some people in the league chat saying that they were driving back from work, hoping that they were going to make it in time, and it looks like everybody did. Okay, but we have this quarterback run going. Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, Saquon Barkley going all the way to the 109. I actually just recorded a video where tomorrow we're going to upload it. It's going to be me predicting what the 2022 Dynasty running back rankings are going to be looking like. And I have Saquon Barkley, of course, at the very top of that list. Not ahead of one player in particular, but he comes in at number 2. I'm very excited about getting that video out for everybody and seeing what your opinion is on it. Okay, so Jordan said, I asked if I said this was best ball. Yes, this is best ball only in terms of actually going through and starting the lineup. Obviously, based on this draft board, you can still make a ridiculous amount of trades, but I think we want to keep on mixing it up. We want to make sure we're getting new leagues out there, and this is only the second best ball Patreon startup that we've started this offseason, and we had 8 regular ones where you submitted a starting lineup. Okay, Christian says, I could cry at my start. Oh, okay, so Christian, my man, what is your team name out here? Obviously, it's going to be very hard for me to figure that out. Aaron Jones says, Dalvin Cook went at the 103 in my current startup. Man, that sounds like someone that doesn't necessarily know how Dynasty works. Maybe they are new to Dynasty. Maybe they are just used to playing redraft, because definitely taking the running back on their second contract, not named Christian McCaffrey, ahead of a guy like a Jonathan Taylor, ahead of those elite quarterbacks is definitely a bad call. But Kevin here decides to go with Alvin Kamara at the 110 as the running back 4. And I don't necessarily want to keep on bringing up my rankings because I don't want to feel like anybody in this draft is getting sniped based on what I say on a stream. So we're going to try to keep our mouth shut just slightly. So yeah, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Russell Wilson, a little run on veteran players here, some older guys. Love seeing Russell Wilson go off at the 112 though. I mean, y'all know Russell Wilson is my guy. That's someone that I'm drafting in almost every single startup draft this offseason. So Russell Wilson at the 112 warms my heart. Now Cam Akers at the 202, definitely love seeing that value. Cam Akers actually my running back 4 in Dynasty. Najee Harris, my running back 5 in Dynasty, going at the 203. And yeah, so it looks like this is very quarterback and running back heavy. I don't necessarily want to be scrolling through this draft board trying to figure out who we are going to be looking at, because we understand that, I mean, we are so far away that any player that I'm going to be looking at is most likely going to be gone by the time we are up. But also, let me remind everyone, this is a tight end premium format as well. Tight ends get 1.5 points per reception. Okay, so now let's see where Christian says. Okay, Christian says his name is Cherry Duck. Okay, so Cherry Duck is, by the way, someone who was one of the most active traders before this league. I mean, you can see literally, look at Cherry Duck's first 8 rounds. I mean, he doesn't have a single one of his picks. It looks like he traded away the 107 and then traded back for the 107. But yeah, it's just a ridiculous amount of activity here. So he goes Kyler Murray and Justin Herbert at the 104 and the 107, about to be back up at the 206 as well. Now, Nick Chubb going at the 205. I can't get behind the Nick Chubb selection, but we do have some tight ends going in, Travis Kelce and George Kittle. George Kittle would have been someone that I would have loved at the 212. But what sucks here is it looks like we have back-to-back picks. But like I said, guys, this is a 3rd round reversal. So we get to pick here at the 212, and then we don't go again until the 312. I mean, this is not a fun way to start a draft at all. But given the fact that this is best ball, I really like the idea of essentially what we did is, obviously, this was not one trade, but we went through and we made multiple trades to set this up. Is we went through and traded the 101 for the 405, the 407, the 602, the 607, and the 205. And I would not recommend making a trade like that in a regular format, but in a best ball dynasty format, that's a trade that I really like to do. Okay, so the first wide receiver goes off the board in Justin Jefferson. Okay, so the Nick says, do you think you'll do a flock meetup in Florida? If so, what would the general area be? Yeah, I'm definitely going to be planning on doing a flock meetup in Florida. It's not going to be until after the football season though, because I'm going to get to Florida at the end of this month, and we are going to be on a full-on grind to make sure that we are just pumping out as many videos as we can over there on the main fantasy football channel, because that's when all the casual fantasy football people are going to be coming in. So I'll be extremely busy before the season, but after the season, I'll definitely do a meetup in Florida, and most likely it's going to be in the Tampa area. Okay, so Trey Lance at the 208, Joe Burrow at the 209. Oh my gosh, I would have loved to have either one of those quarterbacks here. I mean, if we pull up the quarterback position, really there's, I don't know where we can confidently go in this range. Okay, so Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, and then at tight end, you do have both Kyle Pitts and Darren Waller. So yeah, I think that there are a couple different ways that we can go in this draft. Okay, so Kenul says, what are your thoughts on Cole Kmet in Dynasty? Cole Kmet wasn't the best tight end prospect, but he was incredibly young coming into the NFL out of Notre Dame, still younger than the majority of the tight end prospects that were in this year's NFL draft class. Obviously, Jimmy Graham still being on the roster isn't necessarily great for Cole Kmet, but I just think he's a perfect example of a player that's going to take a very long time to actually make an impact in fantasy. I think maybe it takes him until 2022. Now, Antonio Gibson going at the 210, so we have that running back going yet again. Now at the 211, Cherry Duck is back up. Cherry Duck has decided to go Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, and George Kittle. So Cherry Duck looked like he worked trades to a T here. I mean, he has 2 first, 2 second, and all he had to give up was a third, a fifth, a sixth, and a 10th. I mean, it looks like he definitely pulled off some trades at the beginning that probably shouldn't have gone through. But let's look at this real quick. I think we go with a player that we just got done writing his chapter in the 2021 Fantasy Draft Guide. I think that a lot of people are not going to like this selection, but understanding what matters at the running back position, actually, what running backs will be. Okay, yeah. So if you're looking at running backs that are still available, there are very few players that I would actually like at the 312 because we can assume that you're going to have pretty much all of the guys at the top of this list going by then. If we go over to wide receiver, there are a million different players that I'd be fine with. At tight end, I know you have both Kyle Pitts and Darren Waller, but I'm going to pass on there. Quarterback, there was the last drop-off in tier at Joe Burrow. So here I think that we are actually going to be going with DeAndre Swift as our first player here at the 212. And I know a lot of people aren't going to like that. We actually just drafted him in the 3rd round of that high-stakes redraft league that we did. But yeah, DeAndre Swift at the 212, I'm completely fine with. But also, guys, if you have not dropped a like on the stream yet, please, 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 we have over 160 people in here. Go down there, drop a like on the stream, help us out here. I mean, nobody is producing content like this. Please, please, if you enjoy it, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Okay, so now Jayan says, what is Steele getting Antonio Gibson that like? Yeah, Antonio Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, all in the same tier for me there. I mean, we would have definitely been looking at either Clyde Edwards-Helaire or Antonio Gibson if DeAndre Swift would have went. Actually, you know what we should be doing right now? Very stupid for me to not have our Dynasty rankings pulled up to the side as we go through this draft, because I've talked about this before, but it's not the easiest thing in the world to go through live stream, talk nonstop, read the chat, and continue to do this and have your nailed in player evaluations off the top of your head. So over there on Patreon, I'm sure all of y'all have seen my Dynasty rankings. And yeah, I mean, that's something that we worked on for hours and hours and hours and hours. So there's no reason for me to not have that pulled up as we draft so it can help me out. But Derrick Henry goes as the 4th running back in a row off the board here at the 301. So let's look at where Super PAX has gone so far in this draft, because Super PAX, someone that made a bunch of trades. So he's taken Dak Prescott, Saquon Barkley, Cam Akers, and Derrick Henry. So it looks like he has loaded up on 3 down running backs. What's interesting is there are going to be some teams here that are probably very behind the 8 ball in running backs. Like here, an example is Zach decides to go Joe Burrow and Justin Fields. Doesn't pick again till the 404. I know there are some teams that don't necessarily have picks this early. I mean, here, Benny, again, has 1 pick within the first 2 rounds. And I actually love this start from Benny. I mean, Benny looks like he just essentially has a much better draft board than I do. And he decides to go Trevor Lawrence at the 201. So yeah, this is very interesting, but I think some teams are going to be hurting for running back just a little bit, given all the trades that were made before this draft. Okay, so Tyler says, how can I get in a league? We're actually doing another announcement of the Flock 17. So our newest Flock Patreon startup over there on Patreon tomorrow night. We're going to announce it on Discord as well. And essentially how you get in a league is if you're a member of the Flock Patreon, you make sure that whenever I post that league, if you're available for the live draft, you shoot me a DM as fast as you can. And they fill up extremely quickly. So you have to make sure that you pull it up ASAP. I mean, if you get the notification on your phone and you go, you know what, let's see if I'm available for this draft in about an hour and a half, then we can DM Mason. It's going to be long, long gone by then. So essentially, I'll send out that announcement. And if you're available, you'll go through, you'll join the league. And yeah, it's just really, really fun. Okay. So Aaron says, any interesting scoring other than tight end premium? No, it is 4-point passing touchdowns. Really just completely basic scoring. The only thing that's added on is tight end premium, a 3rd round reversal. And at the same time, we know that it is best ball. So that definitely does change some things. Okay. So let's see if we can go through, see if we have any other questions in the chat. Okay. So Doak saying, what part of Florida are you moving to? We are actually going to be moving to the Tampa area because I don't know why, but Tom Brady called me up and he said that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers front office needed someone that could come in and confidently evaluate these running backs and wide receivers coming into the NFL or through free agency and really understand how they should be deploying these guys. So I talked to Tom. I was like, well, you know, I'm going to be really busy making fantasy football videos. I'm going to be really busy live streaming drafts. I can try to pencil you in for some time. And he was like, well, just whatever you do, you can live with me in my mansion / Derek Cheater's mansion. You can stay at the guest house, stream everything from there. And then when I need you, I'll buzz you. And then, yeah, so we have that set up for this upcoming season, but should be really fun. Okay. So Tyler says, so do I pay the dues as well as on top of the Patreon? Yes. So all these leagues are actually real money leagues. I mean, there are $60 buy-ins. So our high stakes league, that was a $500 buy-in, but we're not going to be doing that for the majority of these leagues. All these Flock Patreon Dynasty leagues are $60 yearly buy-ins. Okay, so let's go through and yeah, Caleb asking how much money are most of the startups. Yeah, they're $60, my man. Okay, NC Tricks says, why does it feel like the colors are different this stream? That's a big thing. I completely understand that you're saying that, and it looks like Sleeper kind of changed the tone slightly with their draft. Okay, so Darren Waller, it looks like Smitty, is he in the draft? Okay, so he takes Kyle Pitts at 306. I thought that was about to be a timeout there. Okay, Mort says, just traded Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cortland Sutton, and a future first for Cam Akers, Michael Gallup, Curtis Samuel, and a future second. 14-team Superflex League. What do you think? Okay, so Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Cam Akers. I prefer Cam Akers there. And then you traded Sutton and a future first for Gallup, Curtis Samuel, and a future second. That is close because in a 14-team league, you definitely want to prioritize getting that depth in. So you actually have a lot of value with the Michael Gallup and Curtis Samuel. I think that's literally the definition of probably the most fair trade that I have seen this offseason. That's very, very fair. And I think it depends on your team construction. So Tyler says, so if I get on right now, there's a league I can join, correct? Yes, sir. You're just going to have to make sure you're available for the time that we are drafting. And you have to make sure that you beat the other people who are wanting to join the league in DMing me. Okay, so Jaden says, Mason, how much do you value George Kittle and at 2 point per reception for the tight end position? Okay, so a George Kittle there, I definitely want to be bumping him up to a late first round pick. Y'all know George Kittle is going to be my tight end 1 in Dynasty. And I think in that format, a George Kittle easily goes ahead of Nick Chubb, Cam Akers, Dalvin Cook, Russell Wilson, really anybody in that tier where I'm starting to look at him once we get to about the 110. But I actually broke down a team on Patreon earlier this week that had a 3 PPR for the tight end position, which obviously is ridiculous. Okay, so we are about to be back up on the clock here, and we are going to be looking at back-to-back picks. So we go across positions. You got Rodgers, Watson, Stafford, Tua, Tannehill at quarterback. Running back, Dobbins, Zeke, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, Travis Etienne. Wide receiver, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, CeeDee Lamb, Calvin Ridley, Jamar Chase, Terry McLaurin. And tight end, obviously, Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson are best available, but I'm not considering them over any of those other players. Okay, Dom says, do you take payment through Venmo? We're actually going to be doing everything from now on through website. I don't want to plug them out for free on the stream, especially if I'm trying to get a sponsor on the channel. But yeah, no, it used to be through Venmo / PayPal, but when the channel blew up, I was like, okay, well, I probably shouldn't be having this much money move through that stuff. So let's definitely get it on a website. That way I don't have to be personally responsible for all of that. And it's definitely less pressure on y'all because I know you probably don't want to be sending me money directly. So yeah, we've definitely moved everything over. Okay, Christian says, don't take my player, Mason. No idea who you are going to be looking at, but what's nice is we are going to have 312, 401, and then we are going to be right back up here at the 405, 407. So if we think that there's a tier of guys that we could be looking back on the way back, I mean, we probably should be looking at the players that are highest in ADP right now and trying to determine what guys we need to be taking at the 312, the 401. Okay, Baca says, how much are flock dues anyway? Okay, CeeDee Lamb goes to the 401. CeeDee Lamb definitely would have been a player that we would have taken. I think we lock in J.K. Dobbins here. J.K. Dobbins, a running back that I definitely think is slightly overvalued in Dynasty, given the fact that this is someone that doesn't necessarily have the reception upside that we would want to see. But I think we do have to take him here, given he is a running back on his rookie contract that should continue to rise in Dynasty value. Now, beyond that, I think we have a slightly harder decision on where we are going to be going, because at wide receiver, you have a few interesting options at the top in Davante Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, and guys that should be highly productive this upcoming season, but their long-term value is a little bit in question. At quarterback, Rodgers, Watson, Stafford, Tua, I think we're fine letting just whoever falls to us, the 405, 407 fall to us. So yeah, we're going Dobbins, but beyond that, it's going to be difficult for us to figure out. Let me pull up my Dynasty rankings real quick. That way we don't have to continue to ramble on the screen, and we can maybe have a better understanding on where we should actually be going. Okay, so at wide receiver, there is one player left in tier 2 that we do have. But I think given this build, if we're starting Swift and Dobbins, we don't necessarily want to be bringing him in. So this is a difficult decision, to be completely honest. So at the 401, I think possibly we go wide receiver. I don't want to draft him. How old is Davante Adams? 28 years old. I feel like we have to draft Davante Adams here, because if you're talking about upside, there are very few players that have the same level of upside that we have seen Davante Adams have before. He's literally been a league-breaking wide receiver in fantasy football, and I understand you have the concern with Aaron Rodgers. You have him at 28 years old at the same time. But again, once we get to the 4th round, I think we are fine with that value. I mean, if you're looking at other assets, Ezekiel Elliott, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Joe Mixon, they're all win now assets as well. And if we're going win now, I honestly probably prefer the wide receiver when we start DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins. So I don't love this draft pick at all, but I would be very surprised if he fell to us at the 405. So we're going to be going Davante Adams here. So our start to this draft is DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, and Davante Adams. Looks like it's a little bit hard for y'all to go through and actually see this entire draft board. So let me try to zoom out just slightly so everybody can see it. Let me know if that looks better for everybody. And also, I'm assuming that we're going to get some hate for that Davante Adams pick. So let me hear it. I was hoping CeeDee Lamb was going to be falling to us. Let me pull up the chat real quick, so I'm sure that y'all have a lot to say about this. Okay. So Christian says, you literally just took both of my players. Oh, okay, yeah. So I am happy to hear that, because with Davante Adams, I really wanted to pass on him. But the problem is we were picking at the 405 as well. So if we were going to be looking to draft the player over Davante Adams, that player definitely had a higher likelihood of actually falling to us at the 405 than Adams would himself. So I think that was definitely a useful tiebreaker, even though I didn't like bringing in such an old veteran when we do start DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins. I think for the value, it was most likely the right call. Jared says, wow, you actually drafted a vet. Yes, sir. We actually got it done. Okay, so please, guys, go down there, drop that like if you have not already. We are almost at 200 people in this live stream. Let's get over 100 likes on the stream. If we get over 150 likes on the stream, we'll do something we haven't done in a while. I'll call in the dog. I'll hold her up on the stream for everybody to see. I know that usually that's the number one way we can incentivize people to get likes in here. But it looks like Christian, actually, I don't want to say that's a timeout, because we know Michael Thomas was actually further down in ADP. So that looks like it was actually going to his queue. But that is interesting to see Michael Thomas here go right after Davante Adams. Okay, so Skills Elite says, where would you rank Chase in Dynasty and Redraft? Okay, my man, I can pull this up exactly for you right now as I have my Dynasty rankings up. I don't have my 2021 Redraft rankings spreadsheet pulled up, but in Dynasty, we currently have Jamar Chase ranked as the wide receiver 10, directly behind DeAndre Hopkins and directly ahead of DJ Moore. But of course, all that can be found over there on Patreon, the entire list, all the tiers, and those 2021 rankings and draft guide are going to be posted very soon. I just want to make sure that we have the same rankings updated in that draft guide before we release any of that. Okay. So Cherry Duck, maybe we need to refresh here. I mean, what is going on with going and taking this long on the clock? I felt like we kind of stalled here enough to kind of figure out where you were going to be going. Cherry Duck started this draft off with Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, George Kittle, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So he's a very balanced start here. He decides to take Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin, we currently have ranked as our wide receiver 12 in Dynasty. Now, Travis Etienne goes off at the 404 by Zach. That was easily going to be our selection there. That was honestly what I was trying to decide between with going Davante Adams or Travis Etienne. I figured there was a much higher chance that Travis Etienne fell to us at the 405. Oh my gosh, great pick, my man. That definitely kind of kills us here. So now I think at quarterback, the thing is we can wait a little bit longer. Running back, I wanted to take Travis Etienne, but that just throws us off. So here, I think we actually go over to the wide receiver position. We draft our second wide receiver this draft, and we're going to be going with DeAndre Hopkins at the 405 to pair with Davante Adams. I'm excited about that. I think that this gives us a great balance of long-term value with both DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins, as well as production right away with those veteran wide receivers. Okay, Paxman says, Mason going to hate this pick. I really did hate that Travis Etienne selection. I really wanted Etienne. Ashwin says, should have listened to me and JN. That's what I saw JN spamming in the chat for me to go Travis Etienne. I tried to ignore it after we took Davante Adams. I didn't want to bring up his name because I was trying to get him to fall back to us at the 405. But, of course, that's the price you pay. Okay. Gosh dang. So now we are going to be up on the clock one more. I know a lot of people are probably wanting us to go with Ezekiel Elliott here. I think we are not necessarily pressured to go with any given running back when we start Swift and Dobbins. That's one of the luxuries of taking running backs very early in drafts is I don't necessarily feel the pressure to continue to hammer in that position, given I feel very comfortable with our floor that we are going to have there over the next 3 to 4 seasons. So I think we can continue to go value. But let's see where okay, so here, Jamar Chase goes at the 406. Jamar Chase, gosh dang it, that was going to be our selection as well. Jamar Chase, we had him ranked one spot behind DeAndre Hopkins. So now we are up on the clock. God dang, I needed to be looking for secondary options. That's what I should have been doing instead of just sitting there and drooling, trying to get Jamar Chase to fall back to us. Okay. So here the question is, let me see if I can talk about my process out loud. Okay, yeah, so we don't pick again until the 512. So essentially the question I'm asking myself here is, do we go DJ Moore? That is the question we have. So DJ Moore looks like he is the last wide receiver in our tier 3. Our tier 3 also has other wide receivers like DeAndre Hopkins and Jamar Chase that were just drafted. Now I know DJ Moore, it would look like a reach here at the 407. I know a lot of people probably want us to go with a TJ Hawkinson, but to be completely honest, I just feel so comfortable when we get into rounds. I mean, if you participated in a Flock Patreon startup with me, you'll see that in rounds 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, there are a ton of tight ends that I just want to continue to draft them. So unless we have crazy value fall to us at the top of this draft, I really don't want to be going tight end. So here, let's go. Maybe Javonte Williams. No, let's just get DJ Moore. I really like DJ Moore in Dynasty. I mean, this is a wide receiver that, yes, was disappointing last season, but if you looked at 2019 in his age-adjusted production, he was near the very top of the NFL. So it's sad to see us getting sniped back-to-back with Travis Etienne and Jamar Chase, but it is what it is. Taking DJ Moore there. Please let me know what y'all think of that selection. Baca says, get the Rodgers and Adams stack. Here, if you go through and if you look at teams right now, I mean, the majority of teams already have 1 to 2 starting quarterbacks. So I feel comfortable with us being able to have some quarterback value fall back to us. Really, there's only one team, and this is Kevin right here, that does not have a starting quarterback yet. And he only has one pick between our range where we are about to be up on the clock again with 4 picks once we get to this late 5th, early 6th area. See, I actually, now that we are looking at this start, I'm really happy with the trades that we made before the draft. Okay, Pax said, I really held on to the pipe dream that Zeke was going to somehow fall all the way back to me. Pax, let me know what your team name is here so I have a better understanding of what context we are having. Okay, so let's go through. And Andrew says, what do you think about giving Irv Smith a future first and second for Mark Andrews plus Corey Davis and a third? Tight end premium 10-team superflex with Logan Thomas as a backup. To be completely honest, I don't like the idea of going out of your way and paying up for that tight end until we see what the actual production looks like for Mark Andrews. I mean, if Mark Andrews does come out and he's an elite tight end again this upcoming season, I don't think his price point is going to be that much more expensive than what you're already paying in that trade. So I think we would rather wait until we get to about week 3 or week 4 of the season, because I feel comfortable with Logan Thomas and Irv Smith being your tight end 1 and tight end 2 going into the year. Okay, Jackson says, hey, Mason, what's your take on N'Keal Harry? In a different situation, he could be a value in Dynasty. Honestly, my man, I don't necessarily agree with that. I mean, with N'Keal Harry, what's so funny is if you think back in Dynasty Fantasy Football, if y'all were playing back in 2019, a lot of y'all's favorite Dynasty analysts had N'Keal Harry as a bona fide can't miss prospect, someone that was a top 24 pick in Dynasty Football. It was honestly funny for a wide receiver that was having that prospect profile. But with N'Keal Harry, I mean, if he can't beat out Jacoby Myers, what are we talking about here? If Jacoby Myers is going to be the target leader on that team and N'Keal Harry really can't do anything, what team is he going to go to and all of a sudden finally unlock and finally be something in fantasy? I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we've had a lot of New England Patriots bust wide receivers that people were excited about potentially going to a different situation, and when they did, really never went anywhere. Okay, Connor saying, should have taken Javonte Williams. Honestly, I probably should have taken Javonte Williams, to be completely honest. Just with DJ Moore, he's a wide receiver that I am trying to get as many shares as I can. Okay, so Michael says, most names blocked, can't tell teams with all the trades. Okay, so let me go through real quick. Let me hide that little panel thing that we have so everybody can see. Okay, is that better, guys? Can y'all see what we have going on here in terms of the trades? Okay, so Joe Mixon going here at the 412. Yeah, we should have gone running back. We should have taken Javonte Williams. I understand N'Keal requested a trade, my dudes, and that's what I'm saying. What situation is he going to that he is going to be able to beat out the wide receivers on that team? I mean, he couldn't beat out Jacoby Myers. I understand he requested a trade. Of course, you know, I've probably gotten 15 questions about N'Keal Harry over on Patreon over the past 2 days. Okay, so it looks like we are having a small running back run here, possibly. Okay, no, we're looking at that board a little wrong. It is interesting to see Mark Andrews go ahead of TJ Hawkinson here, because we have seen it's almost consensus at this point to have TJ Hawkinson. Okay, Zach, honestly, my man, I should not have invited you to this league. Pissing me off, sniping us, taking T. Higgins here, another player that, of course, we were targeting. Yeah, Zach, I'm going to probably have to tell the rest of the league that you couldn't make it to the next rookie draft or something, and you didn't have time for the league and you had to back out. Because after we get off of this live stream, don't be surprised if you can no longer get into this league through Sleeper. Don't be surprised if your Twitter and you are blocked on Patreon as well and you can't reach out to me. Don't be surprised if you're blocked on YouTube, because this is ridiculous with all these snipes. Okay, so Selfmade asking, Mason, is there any disadvantage with streaming your drafts live? Yeah, I mean, obviously I have my Dynasty rankings posted on Patreon, which every single person in the stream is a part of the Patreon community. So they all have access to my rankings. At the same time, they kind of hear my thought process going through with what I think are good picks, what I think are bad picks. And that's not to say that, of course, I'm sorry, that's not to say that I'm right. It's not to say that people are copying me, but it's to say that everybody knows exactly what I'm trying to do here. Everybody knows the exact players I'm trying to target. So, of course, I'm at a slight disadvantage. I don't talk about it a lot because I don't want to sit here and sound like a crybaby, because I'm the person choosing to do this live stream. It's not like anybody in this league is holding it against me. So, yeah, of course, I'm at a slight disadvantage, my man. Okay, John says, how is Super PAX getting back to 1? Okay, I don't know what that means, but we can pull up the Super PAX team real quick with Dak, Barkley, Cam Akers, and Derrick Henry here, and then doesn't have another pick until the 608. Jan says Zach is hacking the computer. I know. I was real. It was kind of like a pipe dream thinking that we were either going to get Deshaun Watson or T. Higgins falling to us at the 512, but still. I mean, just taking the same guys we were looking at over and over and over again. Okay, so now let's go through and see what else we are going to be doing. Okay, Baca says, I would have asked the world for Mahomes. I actually am the one who traded away the rookie pick 101. I eventually made just a cascading amount of trades that led to us getting the 405, the 407, the 602, the 607, and the 1005, which, like I said, guys, I wouldn't recommend doing that trade in a regular fantasy football league. But given the fact that this is best ball, the roster construction here, the ideal construction is a little bit different. So, of course, Mahomes is that cornerstone asset. But I think that trade did make sense. And of course, it wasn't just one trade, but we went through and made work with a ton of different moves. Okay, so Ricardo says, definitely would have taken Ezekiel Elliott over DJ Moore. Trust Dak over Sam Darnold. Oh, yeah, definitely Ezekiel Elliott's going to outproduce DJ Moore this upcoming season. But Zeke is currently second in the NFL among all running backs with active career touches. And DJ Moore is 24 years old. So there's a big, big difference there. Okay, so we have some more running backs going off with both Aaron Jones and Austin Eckler. So Rodgers does go off at the 503. So Kevin, the one team that still did not have a quarterback, does take there. So we're the only roster right now without a quarterback. Keep in mind, this is a super flex league where we go through, just remind everybody with where we are at. Of course, you can pause it to see, and we are going to be going through and live streaming for the next hour and a half. So you're going to see pretty much how all these teams turn out. I promise you that. Okay. Keith says, what is the format going to be for the next Flock League? I don't have the details 100% sorted out. I'm trying to come up with creative ways to make them new. I don't want any of the Flock Leagues the same. So yeah, I'm not going to say anything right now. Of course, the post is going to be out on Patreon with all the details before you decide if you're going to join the league or not. And real quick, guys, let me grab my phone so I can drop a like on the live stream. No idea how I forgot to do that. But probably the most important thing I do today is going through and dropping a like on the stream. Okay, so let's get out of that. Okay, perfect. Okay, Devontae says, go 3 quarterbacks in the 6th, Rodgers, Watson, and Tua. My man, neither Rodgers or Watson are currently available to us. So if that was a possibility, maybe, but yeah, no, we simply cannot do that. We don't even have the option. Okay, so Keenan Allen goes at the 506. This is a very balanced draft so far. I know it kind of looks weird in that you have like stacks like this of quarterbacks and no quarterbacks and stuff, but you just really have to understand how the trades messed up this draft board. Okay, so Miles Sanders goes at the 507. So it looks like even if we wanted a running back, we probably wouldn't be able to get one at this turn. The guys that are available are going to be Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, Chris Carson, Kareem Hunt, James Robinson. Quarterback, Matthew Stafford, Tua, Ryan Tannehill, Zach Wilson, Baker Mayfield. And then at wide receiver, you have Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Mike Evans, Brandon Ayuk, and Devonta Smith. So we're going to have 3 picks in a row here. So that is going to be extremely nice. Now, Chris Godwin goes to the 508. I really wanted Chris Godwin. I am pissed off about that Chris Godwin selection. Okay, so let's see where Smitty decides to go. He has Allen, Gibson, Ridley, and Kyle Pitts. So very balanced start so far. And then Collegiate Money is going to be up as well, who has Dalvin, Russ, Kelsey, and Javonte Williams. Okay, so there are a couple different ways that we could decide to go with these picks, but of course it's going to depend on what the team ahead of us decides to do. Okay, so Dave says, wow, great start. I think you win or lose the draft with your next 3 picks. Yeah, no, these are definitely going to be pivotal picks. Okay, I see a lot of people not liking us passing up on Ezekiel Elliott at the 407. Guys, the big thing with Ezekiel Elliott is he's a win-now running back that doesn't necessarily have that long-term value. And at the same time, we don't really have a running back need with both DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins giving us that high floor over the next few years. So yeah, I'm not upset about us passing up on Ezekiel Elliott whatsoever. I mean, if I actually pull up my Dynasty rankings right now, we have Ezekiel Elliott at 13. And that is just a few spots ahead of Javonte Williams. And I think Javonte Williams would actually have fit this roster a little bit nicer. But we just, oh my God, there's no way that this could have gone any better for us. So we are having the luxury now of locking in both Matthew Stafford and Ryan Tannehill. Now, beyond that, the question is, do we decide to take Tua? Do we decide to pass on him, possibly go with a different position? But no, I think it's honestly pretty easy right here. We're going to go Matthew Stafford, Ryan Tannehill just to make the draft pretty, and then Tua Tagovailoa back to back to back. Oh my gosh, I could not be more excited about that. Obviously, I didn't want to say earlier what we were hoping was going to happen, but yeah, no, that's what we needed. We needed Stafford, Tannehill, and Tua Tagovailoa. So this is a fantastic team so far. We have 2 running backs on their rookie deals. We have Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, DJ Moore as a stable core of wide receivers. And we have 3 quarterbacks we can feel confident about. Now, TJ Hawkinson at the 604, that was definitely the best value on the board. But I am ecstatic. I may do a cartwheel on the stream right now because of that start. Okay, so yeah, there was nothing that could have gone better than that. I mean, this draft has gone perfectly according to plan. Maybe we would have wanted Travis Etienne falling to the 405 or Jamar Chase falling to the 407. But yeah, I think we are fine with that. Okay, so I know a lot of people are saying, why would you take Tua Tagovailoa? Because, guys, if you look at the quarterback board beyond Tua, I mean, I cannot stress enough how bad of a quarterback Baker Mayfield is in Dynasty. I understand that he usually goes in this range, but Baker Mayfield literally averages less passing yards per game last year than Drew Lock. Baker Mayfield plays on an offense that's never going to throw the ball, which is fine if you're going to have a lot of rushing production. But Baker Mayfield going to be near dead last at the quarterback position in rushing production. There's nothing to point to Baker Mayfield ever being in consideration. Tom Brady, 44 years old. Matt Ryan, obviously, LOL. Kirk Cousins, who knows how long he is guaranteed. Daniel Jones, same thing there. Mac Jones, very low upside prospect given his lack of rushing. So I think that there was a massive fall off after Tua in the tiers that we were looking at. So that's why we were locking into Tua. Joe says, Mason, what is one of the worst trades you've made recently? Oh my man, you know I am an idiot. You know I make bad trades all the time with how active I am. So I'm sure I could go through and find one for you. I'm not going to be able to do that on the stream. Nothing stands out in my head right now, but there are definitely a bunch of trades that I've gotten horribly wrong. Okay. So I know a lot of people are calling us a Baker Mayfield hater. Guys, I understand he can be a really good real-life NFL quarterback, but something that a lot of people have issues with is understanding the difference between real-life value and fantasy value. We're playing fantasy football here. Okay, so now let's go through. Let's pull this up. Let's pull up our rankings real quick because obviously this is going to help us a lot by sorting through this. Okay, so there's one running back left in a tier for us. Beyond that, tight end, not really going to be even looking at tight end. Wide receiver, there's one guy. Okay, so I don't want to do this. I really don't want to. We're not going to. I was trying to see if we should finally take David Montgomery in a league, but I couldn't do it. I'd probably throw up on the stream, and that's not going to be pleasant for anybody. So we're just going to go Mike Evans here at the 607. I'll say not one of the worst trades I've made recently, but one of the worst draft picks I made recently, one of the worst dynasty decisions that I had is in the last Flock Patreon startup. I embarrassingly took Mike Evans over T. Higgins. There's no excuse for it. It was just laughably bad. So that's a big thing that we messed up. But here at the 607, I am fine with that value as our wide receiver 4. So yeah, we have 2 running backs, 3 quarterbacks, 4 wide receivers, and the worst player on our team is Mike Evans. I love how this team turned out. That is fantastic. Okay, so let's go through and see if what y'all were thinking about that. Okay, so people are screaming at me to take Kareem Hunt. Oh my. Guys, please understand that you're going through and you're looking at Kareem Hunt as a running back that probably is, I understand he has upside, but at the same time, you only need to start one running back in this format. You start one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, one tight end, one super flex, and 6 flex spots. We already have 2 running backs. We don't need to put the pressure on drafting a Kareem Hunt. We're just drafting for overall points right now. So Kareem Hunt, I mean, maybe if we needed to start 2 running backs and we didn't have all these flex spots, then sure, that could have been the pick. But no, in this format, in a best ball league, it's easily Mike Evans. Okay, so let's go through and, and the reason I didn't go with a player like David Montgomery is simply just because with David Montgomery, you're looking at him as a running back that sadly is going to get touch squeezed from both Tariq Cohen as well as Damian Williams. I mean, those targets that he had once Tariq Cohen went down last year spiked up like we predicted once you had that injury, but it's going to come down with those other options coming in. I mean, who else were they going to be giving the ball? Cordell Patterson was literally like the only running back left in that backfield. Okay, Evan says, how many flock leagues are you going to make? So this is the flock 16, my dudes. What I'm thinking of doing, to be completely honest, and don't hold me to this, this is just a thought. I was actually talking about this at the flock meetup in Austin, is I think we're probably going to make, we're definitely hitting at least 20 flock leagues by the time we get to this upcoming season. Most likely more, but if we're just talking dynasty leagues, we're probably going to be around 20. And then beyond that, I think we honestly probably stop making leagues. We probably cap it there. And what we do is we just go, hey, these are the cornerstone people. These were the people that were supporting the channel back in 2021 and in 2020. They are the ones that are going to be able to participate in these dynasty leagues. If a spot opens up, of course, you can take it. But I think while we are starting up a ton this offseason, it's really going to be, I don't want to say your only shot to get in this offseason, but we're not going to be starting another 15 dynasty leagues next offseason like we did this one. Okay, so let's go through and James says, go get something to drink and come back to see Mason took 2 of the 3 of my quarterbacks. You love to see it. I mean, man, that is y'all's fault for letting Stafford, Tannehill, and Tua fall here. I mean, I am ecstatic with those selections. Okay, so you have Noah Fant, Chase Claypool here going. So this is going to be a massive tier fall off after you have Robert Woods going at the wide receiver position. Thomas says, I'm going to get in a league eventually. Yes, sir. If you want in the next league, please shoot me a text, my dude, and I will get you that spot into the league. Okay, so Evergreen says, Dynasty Superflex tight end premium. Diggs, Mixon, a first and a second for Waller and Justin Jefferson. Jefferson, Diggs, somewhat similar in Dynasty. If you're looking at Mixon, a first and a second versus Darren Waller, I think you easily prefer the Mixon side, and it outweighs the difference that you're seeing between Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson. So there we are going to be going with Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon, and the picks. Okay, so BK says, hey, just a quick question. Why do you like playing in multiple quarterback / best ball? Just curious because I have a best ball multi-quarterback formats. Multi-flex is fire, though. Okay, so I don't know exactly what the question is. So I will say what I definitely like to do is I like to bump up the amount of flex spots that you have, because when you have more flex spots, more players actually matter in your evaluation of guys like McCole Hardman, Henry Ruggs, Curtis Samuel, that tier of wide receivers. It becomes incredibly important because y'all know over on Patreon, I literally probably make 3 to 4 podcasts a day just breaking down your dynasty teams. And a big thing that I always say is when I get sent an 8-man league where you're only starting 8 players, of course, league settings are going to drastically change how we're evaluating players on our roster and the kind of prototypes we need to be looking for. And in formats that are that shallow, players like a Curtis Samuel, a Robbie Anderson, those guys that their ceiling is to be high-end wide receiver 3s, low-end wide receiver 2s, they literally don't matter at all. But a format like this, they are crucial to building an actual competitive team. So I really like playing in formats where you start 11 players because it makes so many more guys have value, and it makes it a lot harder where you can't just sit there and go, oh, well, Johnny down the street, he got Christian McCaffrey. This league's over. We're not going to be able to win unless Christian McCaffrey gets injured. No, there's a lot more to that. You have to balance out studs. You have to balance out depth. So that's why I definitely prefer playing in a format like this. Okay, so let's go through. And Evergreen says, is Dallas Goedert worth the hype this year? Love the content as well. Thanks for answering the earlier question. Of course, my man. And with Dallas Goedert, I mean, he's a player that historically I've been very low on in Dynasty. I mean, after his rookie season, I believe that was back in 2018, his Dynasty value skyrocketed because he had a very impressive rookie year. And I was sitting there going, this is laughable. This is one of the worst prices in Dynasty. How is he being evaluated? As he was like a top 6 tight end at that point. I was like, Zach Ertz is going to be here for the next 3 years. What are we talking about? And now, all of a sudden, Zach Ertz is leaving town, but Dallas Goedert has a slightly disappointing year last year with the worst quarterback play in the NFL in Carson Wentz. And all of a sudden, everybody is off of Dallas Goedert. And this is the one time ever that I'm actually going to be higher on Dallas Goedert compared to consensus. Now, David Montgomery going at the 705. I definitely like that David Montgomery value now. With Montgomery, he's a running back that I've been historically a lot lower on than other people. But if you're getting him at the 705, that is fantastic value. Daniel says, I want in your league. What is your number to text? My man, I am not giving my number out. I told Thomas to text me. Thomas edits videos for the channel. So, of course, he has my number. I'm not giving out my phone number on a live stream, though. I will say if you want in a league, just be on the lookout for the post that is going to be uploaded on Patreon tomorrow night. Okay, so Cup, Curtis Samuel, Galladay, Chark, Waddle, all going off the board here. So you do have that massive wide receiver run. And what's interesting is Deontay Johnson, a wide receiver I don't like, is definitely falling very far here. I mean, if you go to the wide receiver position, you have Deontay Johnson, Julio Jones, Cortland Sutton, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyler Lockett, Adam Thielen, Laviska, Rashad, Odell, and Deebo Samuel. And I just realized as we go through and we look at the construction of this roster, I think I made another mistake again in drafting Mike Evans over Robert Woods. And this is what I said on the main channel, where we went through and we had to kind of face reality where as we were doing research for our 2021 fantasy guide, of course, we were going in depth. We're looking at all the context that the production was presented in. And I think Mike Evans is a player that I have been too high on because, like I've said, I am 100% willing to admit that those players from the 2014 NFL draft class, guys like Odell Beckham Jr., Brandon Cooks, Mike Evans, Sammy Watkins, I'm always going to be too high on them. I am biased with those players because that was my first year playing Dynasty, and I love that rookie draft class. So it's a little hard for me to get over that. But if we look at the production this upcoming season, I have Robert Woods ranked higher than Mike Evans in 2021 fantasy projections. Now, beyond that, what really makes that Mike Evans pick bad over Robert Woods is the fact that we have Matthew Stafford on this team, where I think if we didn't have Matthew Stafford, Mike Evans would have been the selection. But I think they're close enough where the stack would have made sense by going and getting Robert Woods. Okay, so now let's go through, see what else we need to look at. Everybody who is screaming at me to draft Kareem Hunt at the 607, guys. Kareem Hunt still available here at the 708. If Noah Fant would have fallen here, maybe we would have considered Noah Fant. But, I mean, I really thought we were going to end up taking TJ Hawkinson at the 607 right after talking about why I didn't want to be drafting TJ Hawkinson. Okay, Paxman says, I'll give you Robert Woods for Ryan Tannehill. Of course, we're not doing that. Laviska Shenault, the guy that we wanted, really wanted Laviska Shenault falling to us here at the 712, the 801. I am aggressive with our Laviska Shenault ranking. If you pull up my Dynasty rankings, I have Laviska Shenault as the wide receiver 28, which honestly is probably, actually, I know for sure that is too low. I'm writing down on I have a to-do list every single day to make sure I get all my work done. And I'm writing on this right now. Move Laviska Shenault. I need to move multiple players up. I need to move Laviska up. I need to move Robert Woods up. I need to move Judy and Sutton down. Yeah, we got some manual adjustments we need to be doing to those rankings. I do not like what that is looking like right now. Okay, so Sutton goes at the 701. So are we... No, I was going to say, are we going to be forced to take Baker Mayfield here after trashing him after we passed on him at the 602 just because he falls this far? And obviously, Baker Mayfield, according to ADP, is the best value on the board. I don't know if we can get behind it, though. I think we have to look for something else to do, especially after I trash him and we already have three quarterbacks. I think Baker Mayfield... Well, yeah, he's the best value on the board. He's just too low upside to be a quarterback 4. I mean, if we're taking a quarterback 4, I want him to have an elite ceiling. Okay, so Juju Smith, by the way, just talking out loud here, Juju is 100% going to be my pick at one of these. I'm just kind of milking down this clock. That way we can go through and we can try to get a good answer on what we're going to be doing with the second pick before we are having to use that clock. Let's add Juju to the queue here just in case I end up getting autoed. But yeah, I think Dallas Goedert, just because I promise you guys, my favorite values in this range of the draft right here are always tight end. And what sucks is when I go tight end early and I feel like we can't have that many tight ends given our roster construction and I have to pass on those values later. So I think we go Juju. The problem is I'm not going to be taking Julio Jones on a build this young, even though it would be a nice stack to have with Ryan Tannehill. Maybe we decide to go... The thing is, we are looking at a massive drop-off in tiers here. where Chris Carson is going to be by far and away the best running back available. It's not even remotely close. We currently are underweight on Chris Carson in our rankings. We have him down there at running back 23, which is lower than consensus, but I mean, that's a lot lower than where he went in this draft. And quarterback, let's see what our quarterback rankings are looking like after the Baker Mayfield tier. Let's look. Baker Mayfield is in tier 7 of our quarterbacks, in the same tier of Mac Jones, Kirk Cousins, Tom Brady, and Daniel Jones. So we can't pass on Baker Mayfield. They're in the same tier there. I feel good enough about passing on him. Now, going back to wide receiver, the thing is, when we're taking a wide receiver as our wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if we're going wide receiver 6, I really don't want to be going with a veteran guy that's not going to have long-term value. I'd prefer to have a cornerstone asset that we can build around for a very long time. So while Julio Jones may be the best wide receiver available here, I think possibly it doesn't make sense for us to go with that pick. I think what we're actually going to do is we're going to be going with Rashad Bateman. He's not the highest ranked in our rankings, but I think based on current Dynasty trade value, as well as knowing who can potentially make it back to us here at the 9-12, Rashad Bateman's going to be the better selection. But I know a lot of people probably wanted us to go Baker Mayfield, but I'm not going to do it. I can't drop Baker Mayfield. It's not because I'm an OU hater. It's more so just because I'm looking at Baker Mayfield as someone that without rushing upside, without the ability to be a high volume passer, he has no ceiling. Even though if you were to take him in this range, like you needed a quarterback 3, I think he is a great value in the 8th round. The problem is the majority of the time he's going in the 6th round. He's going ahead of Tua Tagovailoa. He's going in this tier. And then Baker Mayfield is a horrendous pick. But if you're getting Baker Mayfield back here, I'm completely fine with it. Okay. James says, I was hoping you would go Rashad Bateman there. Okay, so Paxman says, Mason, I'm getting Ryan Tannehill from you. Man, my man, shoot me a offer on Sleeper right now. Let me see if I need to go through and approve any trades. No, we do not. Send me an offer on Sleeper, and I'll let you know if you are getting Ryan Tannehill or not. Garrett says, man, that Julio Tannehill stack would have been kind of juicy. Jayan says, Mans didn't go Devin Duvernay. I know, my man. The problem here is I think Julio Jones definitely would have been intriguing if we weren't drafting him as our wide receiver 6, because we talk about this a lot in terms of getting a guy like an Ezekiel Elliott. He's a great player, I think, if you have to go through and you go, you know what? We're going to be giving up some long-term value here because we desperately need production at the position. So that's why we decided to pass on Ezekiel Elliott at the 407. Because those contending pieces, unless we want to push in and win right away, I don't necessarily want to be loading up with them as depth. I want to be young. I want to be players that are going to increase in value and they can eventually be on the top of our depth chart. Well, if you're going to be trading for a Julio Jones, I think it's a really good thing to do if you're a contending roster and you're loaded at quarterback, loaded at running back, loaded at tight end, a little weak wide receiver, and you need production to fill that hole, then yes, you go get Julio Jones as a bridge player. But when we are already loaded up on Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Juju Smith-Schuster, Julio Jones doesn't do much for that roster. So I think we would rather take the shot on a player that I think can increase in dynasty value, someone I can get a haul for through trade. So we're going Rashad Bateman. Okay, also guys, if you have not already, please go down there, drop a like on the stream, almost at 150 likes. That would be absolutely massive if we could get there. Nicholas says, what were your trades? I don't have the trades pulled up. What they ended up being is I know I traded it to the 108 at one point. And like I said, guys, I play in so many dynasty leagues. It's very hard for me to keep track of the exact moves that I made in consecutive order. I just know the resulting move from me going through and making the 3 to 4 trades that we had is literally all we ended up doing was trading back from the 101 to the 405, the 407, the 602, the 607, and the 1005. And I know a lot of people hear that and go, I don't necessarily like that trade. But if you look at the players that actually is, we essentially traded Patrick Mahomes for DeAndre Hopkins, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Tua Tagovailoa, and whoever this is going to turn out to be. And in a regular format, I don't love it. But in a best ball league, I think it's an easy decision to make. Okay, so Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield going at the 807, 808. I definitely love the value there. I know we were trashing on him earlier, but we're trashing on Baker Mayfield for the people taking him at the beginning of the 6th. If you're getting him in the 8th round, that's a completely fine pick. Okay, so Jesse says, hi, Mason. How do I send the team info for you to evaluate on Patreon? Don't see the option to include files in the message feature. That's one really bad thing about Patreon. Just shoot me a DM over there, and I'll let you know how to get those screenshots for me. And then, of course, we'll post that podcast. I can't do it tonight. We've already actually uploaded and posted the podcast page, the Patreon podcast over there tonight, but definitely get me that team tonight, and I'll have a podcast out for you by tomorrow. Okay, Tanner says, you going to do any non-big money redraft leagues, Mason, for us poor folk? Yes, sir. I'm definitely, by the time we get to the season, I am going to be doing like every single night a $50 draft, most likely. We're going to be doing a ton of Patreon redraft leagues. I promise you guys. Okay, so we have a quarterback run here. Cousins, Mayfield, Daniel Jones, and Sam Darnold all going off the board at the end of the 8th. I think that's good value on all those quarterbacks. Okay, Nicholas says, why wouldn't you like to trade in a regular league? I always try to trade back and get more picks through 3 through 6. And I'm saying I'm fine with making that Mahomes trade in a regular league. I am not necessarily going to argue with anybody against it, but I just think that what's really exciting about that deal is the fact that it's a best ball league. Okay, but Elijah Moore goes at the 8-12. Okay, seriously, one of the main reasons I took Rashad Bateman at the 801 is because between Bateman and Moore, I think we give the slight edge to Elijah Moore. But, I mean, I would definitely see Rashad Bateman having more dynasty trade value. And at the same time, there was a 0% chance Rashad Bateman made it back to us in the 9-12. And I thought there was a small chance we actually had that with Elijah Moore. Okay, so now let's Derek Carr going. Okay, so those quarterbacks are drying up. I'm happy with the 3 that we got, though. So let's go through and let's look at some of these teams right now. So Super PACs, Prescott, and then at the running back position, Barkley, Akers, Henry, wide receiver, Woods, Sutton, Julio, Elijah Moore, E. Smitty, Allen at quarterback, running back has Antonio Gibson, tight end Kyle Pitts, wide receiver, Ridley, Ayuk, Devonta Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle. Zach has a ton of quarterbacks, Burrow, Fields, Watson, Wilson, running back, Etienne, Carson, tight end, Hawkinson, Goddard, wide receiver, Higgins, Claypool, Chenault. Juice has Mahomes, CMC, Mixon, Daniel Jones, and it looks like he is going to be owning the 5th and 11th round. Okay, so TFG just going straight down the board here. Lamar Jackson, Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, Amari Cooper, Deontay Johnson, and then at running back, Miles Sanders and Myles Gaskin. So Cherry Duck at quarterback, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Kareem Hunt, wide receiver, McLaurin, Lockett, tight end, George Kittle. Benny at quarterback, Lawrence, Brady, Mayfield, running back, Zeke, Eckler, Montgomery, tight end, Darren Waller, wide receiver, Godwin, Allen, Kupp. So definitely a win now build there. Carthagen has Lance, Wentz, Cousins at quarterback, wide receiver, Lamb, Thomas, Diggs, Hill, Robinson, and running back, Aaron Jones, Kevin, Kamara, Harris, Sermon at running back, Metcalf, Samuel, Chark at wide receiver, tight end, Noah Fant, quarterback, Rodgers, Darnold, Matt Ryan, collegiate money. I can't keep on talking like that. Y'all can see it. Y'all can see it. Spence Dog. Where did Spence Dog's picks go? It looks like, I mean, he just donated his picks to the league. So to move up in the first round, he essentially gave up. I mean, man, I do not like what you did with trading before this league happened. To be completely honest, I'm sorry to say that, my man. I know I sound like an ass, but I do not like that at all. Okay, so Scoop says, do you allow trades and waivers during the season in your Dynasty Best Ball leagues? No, we do not allow waivers. The Flock Patreon Dynasty leagues are a little bit different, where none of them have a waiver wire. And what we actually do is an 8-round, both redraft and veteran draft every offseason. And what that does is that incentivizes trades through the course of the year. And that if you need a wide receiver 3, well, you better go trade for a wide receiver 3. And with trading, of course, everything we do with our Flock Patreon leagues is to try to incentivize as many trades to get done as possible. So, of course, trades are allowed through the course of the season. Okay, so Michael Pittman at the 905. Okay, Mr. Padilla coming out. Happy to see you out here, my man. Nicholas says, oh, okay, thanks, man. Love your work. You're a true grinder. Thank you, my dude. Okay, so Robinson, Pittman, Carter, Mac Jones at the 907. Love that Mac Jones value. You know, I'm a Mac Jones hater, but if you're getting him there at the 907, I think that's a fantastic pick. Okay, so if you look at quarterback, there are very few options still available. Now, running back, Ronald Jones, Chase Edmonds, Mike Davis, A.J. Dillon. Wide receiver, Odell, Rondale, Robbie Anderson, Terrace Marshall, Hollywood Brown. Tight end, Gesicki. There's still a lot of tight ends left. This is a big reason why I wanted to wait on tight end. Still don't know if we are going to be going with any of them at this turn, but this is another scenario where we are about to have a lot of picks up here. We have back-to-back picks at the 912, 201, and we also have a pick up here at the 205, 1005 as well. Okay, Tanner says, do not give up Mixon in a first for Dallas Goedert, for the love of God. Oh my God, yeah, man, that would be a horrendous trade. Do not, you want Mixon, it should be Mixon or Dallas Goedert in a first-round pick. It shouldn't be Mixon and a first-round pick or Dallas Goedert. That's a very bad deal. But Hollywood Brown, that's who we wanted here at the 912, 1001. Great pick with Hollywood, given the fact that this is a best ball format. So we have 3 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 6 wide receivers. So we really have every position covered where we can go anywhere we want at this point. Okay, so let's come on. Okay, Rondale Moore going. Okay, so now at the wide receiver position, do we possibly double up? Actually, no. There's one guy we have to draft. We're drafting Michael Gallup here easily. Lock it in, Michael Gallup. I would rather have Gallup over a lot of these wide receivers right here. Michael Gallup, definitely going to be a pick. Now, beyond Gallup, there are a few guys we could be looking at. We also have to, of course, check out the other positions, but we are going to be having that 1005 as well. So like I said, there's someone we like that we think they can fall. We will let that happen. I think what we do is we continue to hammer home those young players. I mean, we have a young core here. If we're going to be drafting a wide receiver 8, I want them to have long-term upside. Let me see how. Yeah, so here what we're going to do is we're going to be going Michael Gallup at the 912, and we're going to be following it up with Terrace Marshall at the 1001. Okay, so this is going to be the start for this team so far. At running back, Swift and Dobbins. Quarterback, Stafford, Tannehill, Tua. Wide receiver, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Juju, Bateman, Gallup, Terrace Marshall. So really love the long-term value that we have there. I mean, I'm completely fine with anybody deciding to take Robbie Anderson over Terrace Marshall, but it's the same situation as Julio Jones earlier. I mean, when we're this far down, I'm not necessarily looking to bring in those veteran producers. I'm looking to bring in guys that I think can increase in value. Okay, Tanner saying, is this tight end premium? Yes, sir, this is tight end premium. So I know a lot of people probably would have preferred us going Mike Gesicki, Irv Smith, Hunter Henry, Robert Tonyan, Evan Ingram, Logan Thomas. But yeah, no, I wanted to continue to hammer in those young wide receivers. Especially because if I'm looking at the wide receiver position, after you add Robbie Anderson and Terrace Marshall going off the board, I mean, I think there is a considerable drop-off in tiers. A.J. Dillon definitely would have been a player that we would have wanted falling back to us, but I think we really needed to hit wide receiver there so we can set ourselves up with this next pick. Okay, so this was a massive wide receiver one. I mean, you had 7 wide receivers going off the board in a row. Jordan Love at the 1004. Okay, Zach is getting booted from this league. Zach is gone. Everybody, if you were in the Flock 16, send out a message in the chat says, hey, bye, Zach. I'm sorry Mason's having to boot you, but this is getting ridiculous. And now here at tight end, there is... See, the guy that we would want would be in the same tier of a few different players. So that's the problem. The thing, we also don't draft until the 11-12 though. So possibly we go with the Fuller, given the fact that it will complete a stack that we have with Tua Tagovailoa. How old is Will Fuller? 27. We know that those speed guys do fall off a little bit quicker than the other positions. Maybe we go running back. I really wanted A.J. Dillon on this team. Here, we're just going to go Mike Gesicki. I don't love it, but at the 10.05, I think we're fine to take Mike Gesicki. Like I said, I think the talent profile of Mike Gesicki really lines up for a 2021 breakout. The problem is what we have seen from the Miami Dolphins in their confidence with Mike Gesicki, which they have no confidence in him. They really didn't want to use him last year, and they go out and draft Hunter Long in the 3rd round this year when Gesicki's playing for a contract. So yeah, Gesicki, don't love the pick at the 10.05, but as our first tight end, I am fine with it. Tom is saying, I always like Mike Davis. Yes, sir. Like I said, I just think when we have this much depth, I don't necessarily need to be going and getting those 1-year guys because Mike Davis is the definition of a 1-year player. If this was a regular just 2021 fantasy football league, I'd definitely have looked at running back there. I would have easily preferred Mike Davis really over any of these players. But no, in Dynasty, I think we have to push him down considerably. Okay, so Juice is going to be on the clock here with 3 picks in a row. Let's pull this up real quick to remind everybody what he did. So he pretty much sold everything to get Patrick Mahomes and Christian McCaffrey. He is yet to draft a single wide receiver. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, this is a team without a single wide receiver compared to us, who we have 9 of them. Is my math? No, we have 8 of them, I believe. So it's going to be interesting to see where he decides to go here. Doesn't have a tight end. I have no idea what I'd be doing if I was this team. So he has 4 picks in this round, 3 picks in 11, and 2 picks in round 12 as well. Oh, and honestly, guys, I am a complete dumbass. You know how I was saying we wanted the Will Fuller stack for Tua Tagovailoa? I didn't even realize that we got the Mike Gesicki stack with Tua. I am that stupid that I didn't recognize the fact that Mike Gesicki's on that same exact team, so we get the same exact stack. Okay, so Corey Davis, Will Fuller, it looks like he is starting to bring in those wide receivers. And Adam Troutman. This is, oh my God. This is back-to-back times where Adam Troutman has gone way, 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 way too high in these drafts, my dudes. Adam Troutman should not be a pick here. Logan Thomas was the tight end 4 in fantasy last year. Logan Thomas was the tight end 4 with Alex Smith. There's no reason Adam Troutman should be going over that player. Yeah, I cannot get behind that at all, my dudes. Okay, but Mike Williams at the 10-10. Mike Williams, always a really good best ball option, has actually led the NFL in ADOT over the past few years, average depth of target, and we know that's really what you want with those spike weeks for those wide receivers. Okay, so let me go show the board real quick, and we'll hide our little screen as well. That way everybody can see what has happened so far. And yeah, I'm going to not just verbalize this like we did earlier, but I will show the screen so everybody can see what the teams are looking like, because I know that there are a ridiculous amount of trades in this league to the point where it's nearly impossible to actually see what the draft board looks like on a team-to-team basis. So please, guys, if y'all are watching this as a video later on, or if you want to stick around after the live stream, please let me know in the comment section what your favorite team is out of this group. I mean, obviously, it's the Fantasy Flock Network, so we don't need to say that out loud. You can make some other people feel good about themselves here, and you can possibly say it's someone else, even though we all know that everybody in the stream's looking at my team and saying that it's the best. But we can move on beyond that. Garrett says Harrison Bryant over Adam Troutman. Man, I know Harrison Bryant. Actually, I'm pretty sure he was drafted over Adam Troutman last year. I could be wrong about that. Let me look that up real quick, though. I know Harrison Bryant was a 4th-round selection by the Cleveland Browns, and obviously this doesn't mean everything in terms of where you're drafting them in fantasy, and I would prefer having Adam Troutman over Harrison Bryant, but I think it's at least a good idea to go through and try to put some context behind this, because I think taking Adam Troutman over someone like a Logan Thomas is just crazy. So Adam Troutman actually was drafted with a comp pick at the end of the 3rd. So I apologize. Good thing we looked it up. I was wrong. Adam Troutman was picked like 10 picks before Harrison Bryant, but in the same exact range. Garrett says, I like Zach's start. Sad to see he's getting the boot. I know. It is very sad to see that Zach is getting removed from this league for the crime of one too many snipes. But it is what it is. I mean, that's kind of the risk you have to take when you sign up for a flock league. I heard the commissioner of those leagues, he's an ass. He doesn't listen to anybody. He literally is like a tyrant. So when you sign up and you snipe him, you have to be prepared to get your team taken from you, and you're not getting refunded either. I mean, if anything, you're probably going to get a Venmo request for another $50 for the inconvenience. Okay, so Isaac says, thoughts on Gainwell for the Eagles? I mean, Kenneth Gainwell, literally a pass-catching running back that's a handcuff on a team with a mobile quarterback. I mean, mobile quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, they do not check the ball down to their running backs. So there's no reason in having a handcuffed satellite running back on an offense like that. Kenneth Gainwell's dead in Dynasty. Jayan says, bring the blackboard back. I honestly, maybe, my man. My dad came down to Austin from Florida a few days ago, and he was bringing up a bunch of stuff for my new apartment. Of course, I can't bring everything in one trip, and I sent that blackboard with him. So maybe in the new studio, we'll have that blackboard up. But yeah, it's going to be just dependent. We move into the new apartment, I believe, on the 24th. I could be wrong. I know I'm moving out of Austin the 21st. So hopefully we are all set up and I can get a live stream going that night with a new camera, a new studio. It's going to be very fun. And of course, I need to give a massive thank you to everybody supporting the show on Patreon, because all of the people supporting the show on Patreon, everybody a part of the flock, has allowed that to happen. So thank you, my dudes. Baca says, why is Zach getting booted? Because he has sniped us one too many times. That is why he is getting booted. Baca said, Zach has had a good draft. Yes, my man, that's the point. Zach has had too good of a draft where it's ruining the experience for other people in the league, and you really can't infringe on that. So that's why he's going to have to get booted. Okay. So let's go across positions. It looks like we really haven't had any running backs go off the board since our Mike Gesicki selection. So unless we want to chase Edmonds, I mean, we were completely fine to avoid the running back position. But Adam Troutman, Robert Tonyan now goes off. Juice saying somebody other than Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara is going to have to catch passes. Yes, sir, I definitely agree with that, which is why I think Adam Troutman is an intriguing play. But at the same time, you can't be taking him over Logan Thomas. Adam Troutman has no history of production at all. And I understand you don't need a history of production, but I'm saying you have to put some context into this. Adam Troutman went ahead of Henry Ruggs in this format. Irv Smith going at the 1107. I mean, Irv Smith, a significantly better prospect than Adam Troutman. Irv Smith, someone who on top of being a better prospect, also at the same time has production through his first 2 years in his NFL career. So that's what I'm saying. Adam Troutman, I understand the appeal at the end of drafts, but not in round 10. JN says, ever heard of Chinder? Exactly. He's been sent to the dungeon. Yeah, yes, sir. Exactly. Chinder and Zach are going to be best buddies and banned from flock leagues because they're simply too good at Dynasty. Okay, so let's go through, and it looks like Jared Goff's still available as a quarterback that nobody wants. And maybe we get him, stack him with a DeAndre Swift as a quarterback 4, but obviously no need to reach on a quarterback 4. Now, there are some intriguing names at other positions, but I think we have a good idea of who we are wanting to fall to us at the 11-12 if we can get them. Okay, so let's check back in on Juice after going through and having all these new picks. So he gets Jameis Winston at the 11-02. I love that Jameis Winston value. It's honestly, it shouldn't be happening. Jameis Winston shouldn't be going this late. I mean, Jameis Winston, the quarterback for Adam Troutman in the Superflex League, being drafted behind him. I mean, that is a fantastic selection. But Juice ends up auto-selecting Mike Davis. Don't love to see that at all. Hopefully he can get back in here. I mean, it says he is on sleeper. I have no idea how you're going to let your timer go down like that. Okay, but Kadarius Toney going at the 11-09. So Juice is probably going to auto here. He's probably going to auto Ronald Jones as well. So yeah, there's hopefully autos Ronald Jones because I don't want anything to do with Rojo. Not in this format. NC Trig says, why did you pick 3 quarterbacks in a row? Because they were damn good values in a super flex league, my man. I mean, I'm taking them there every single time we get. Okay, so S. Mitty is literally not even in the draft room right now. So are we about to get back-to-back auto. Actually, no, Zach didn't auto, but are we going to get 2 auto picks relatively close in a real money league that these people have $90 down on this league and they're going to be auto drafting? I mean, I am not complaining. That is just better players available to us. Let me go through and let me check the chat real quick just to make sure that nobody's having issues, but it looks like there are no issues. It looks like the chat is completely empty. So yeah, I mean, I can't really do anything about it. Okay, so now he logs in with 12 seconds left on the clock, takes Jared Goff. Okay, so now we are going to be up. We're definitely locking in Logan Thomas. This is why I wanted to be passing on guys like Dallas Goedert, TJ Hawkinson, Noah Fant, Mark Andrews earlier in the draft over here when we were looking at Matthew Stafford, Ryan Tannehill, Tua Tagovailoa, because we knew that you were going to have these values at tight end later on. And that's what I was saying. I came down to this range and said, this is the value range that we want. So Logan Thomas, we're easily locking him in here. But beyond Logan Thomas, there are a few different players that we could consider. It's sad to see Mike Davis go here as an auto because I would rather had Ronald Jones go as an auto so we could have gotten Mike Davis. But yeah, I think maybe we go back-to-back tight end. Let me pull up my tight end ranking. So we have Logan Thomas as the last guy in this tier. We have Evan Ingram here as well, but I think that's honestly probably a bad ranking on Evan Ingram. I think we possibly will need to be moving him down. Okay, so let's take Logan Thomas, reset our clock. Logan Thomas, love getting that value. So now wide receiver, there are a few options that I like, but the problem is they're a little bit older. So there's no real reason in taking them here when we have 8 wide receivers on this team already. So I think possibly we take a third tight end. The thing is, are we really taking Evan Ingram here? I know that most people are going to be telling us not to get Evan Ingram, but the thing is, I love my man. What we should possibly do is we should possibly mix it up because we have Evan Ingram in so many leagues. Maybe we just get another young player, get Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's down the draft board, though, having to look him up to pop him up. We're going to get Cole Kmet here at the 1201 as our tight end 3. So this team now is Swift, Dobbins at running back, at quarterback, Stafford, Tannehill, Tua, at wide receiver, Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Juju, Bateman, Gallup, Marshall, at tight end, Mike Gesicki, Logan Thomas, Cole Kmet. So yeah, I literally could not imagine this going any better. Okay, so Ryan Fitzpatrick going directly after. Yeah, I definitely want a tight end on the tight end premium format over Ryan Fitzpatrick. Okay, so let's go through. I guess we could have looked at running back. The thing is, just in this league, you only have to start one running back. So that's why I really like getting those guys at the very beginning, getting the safe floor that we have with them, and then possibly getting an extra 1 or 2 very late. But I'm not necessarily putting a premium on running back in this format. Isaac says, why did you take Terrace Marshall over Darnell Mooney? Because Terrace Marshall is a million times better of a prospect than Darnell Mooney. It's not even close. Darnell Mooney, literally a 5th round wide receiver that is undersized compared to Terrace Marshall, a 5-star prospect coming out of high school, then gets to LSU. The second that he is in an offense without Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, he dominates. He has elite athleticism. At the same time, he has elite size. He has way better draft capital than Darnell Mooney. I mean, it is one of the easiest decisions in the world to take a player like Terrace Marshall over Darnell Mooney, in my opinion. Okay, so NC Trick saying, would N'Keal Harry be good dynasty value because he'll probably get traded? No, if N'Keal Harry can't beat out the wide receivers on the New England Patriots, where is he going to get traded where all of a sudden he can earn targets? Please explain that to me because I don't see a logical place. Okay, so Damian Harris, Jonnu Smith go at the 1204 and the 1205. I do like the Jonnu Smith selection. I know the majority of people would prefer having Jonnu Smith over Cole Kmet, but I think that it's close enough where we don't have really many shares of Cole Kmet in Dynasty at all, where we can go that route and be completely fine with it. Baca says, agreed. I don't know where the Mooney truthers are coming from. Darnell Mooney, it's very similar to Terry McLaurin. It's very similar to Nick Chubb. There are a few players that are so exciting to watch on the football field that a lot of people kind of get blinded with what they actually do on the field compared to their real value and their real historical hit rates based on the usage in their offenses. And with Darnell Mooney, he's literally an undersized field stretcher. That's not someone you want to be chasing. You don't want to be chasing someone that's stretching the field on the Chicago Bears roster when we know that Allen Robinson's going to be seeing at least 25% of the team targets. So yeah, it's just about chasing the profiles that have a higher hit rate as well as having a higher overall ceiling. So Terrace Marshall, easily a better call over Darnell Mooney. JN, my man, how many times do we have to talk about this? Marquise Goodwin is not going to do anything in Chicago, I promise you. Okay, Hunter Henry going at the 1206. So we have a little bit of a tight end run going here. We have we have 6 tight ends in about the last 12 or 13 picks. Spack saying, stop the Terry McLaurin hate. I know that y'all are getting mad with the Terry McLaurin hate, but I have yet to be presented a good argument to show why Terry McLaurin should be valued over Allen Robinson or over Michael Thomas or over Keenan Allen in fantasy football in 2021. Now in Dynasty, yes, I'm completely fine with you going Terry McLaurin there, but nobody has been able to give me a solid argument on why he is all of a sudden a player that is better than Keenan Allen, better than Allen Robinson, better than Michael Thomas. It makes literally no sense at all. Okay, so if you go to best players available on the board right now, you have Ronald Jones, Leonard Fournette, Raheem Mostert, Zach Moss, Melvin Gordon, James Conner, Kenyon Drake. Tony Pollard, Kenneth Gainwell, Devin Singletary. It's just running back, running back, running back, running back, running back. Evergreen says, I think Higgins leads all wide receivers in Cincy. Yes, sir. I definitely have T. Higgins as the wide receiver 1 in Cincinnati this upcoming season. Now in Dynasty, obviously you prefer Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, the better prospect. But beyond that, no, I think you go with T. Higgins for this year. Okay, but seriously, can someone in this live chat right now please give me a logical argument on why Terry McLaurin, who finished as the wide receiver 20 in points per game last year, with Steven Sims and Cam Sims as the next best wide receivers on the roster to take targets away, all of a sudden is going to be able to vault up to a range where he's a better pick than Michael Thomas, Allen Robinson, or Keenan Allen in redraft leagues? Because, if you have a good argument, I would love to hear it. I understand Ryan Fitzpatrick does produce a lot of fantasy value for his players, but at the same time, we have to understand that targets are going to be taken away. The efficiency of his targets are all of a sudden going to go up given the upgrade at quarterback, but the volume is going to go down. If that offsets, this is a player that's still going to be a mid wide receiver 2, in my opinion, this upcoming year, where I'm looking at Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, Michael Thomas as locks for top 10 guys. So that's why I'm saying I just don't understand it at all. Baca says, I like Cole Kmet over Adam Troutman. Yes, sir. I definitely love Cole Kmet over Adam Troutman. Cole Kmet was a much better prospect coming out of Notre Dame. At the same time, he had more on the field action his rookie season. So I definitely prefer having Cole Kmet over Troutman. So Isaac says, I only think McLaurin is a better in real life than Keenan Allen, but probably isn't a better fantasy pick. I think that's actually a great point to make. With Terry McLaurin, with the vertical threat that he provides for Washington's offense, I think if you're talking about real life NFL value, Terry McLaurin is actually a better wide receiver than Keenan Allen. But when we come over to fantasy, where we understand that fantasy and real life NFL play are two completely different things. In that sense, then all of a sudden, Keenan Allen easily a better option with the amount of targets that he is going to be able to get and what we have seen over the past 3 years. Okay, Jayan says, because 2 years ago, he was a waiver wire darling, just like Darnell Mooney last year. And finally, we get to the truth. Finally, we get to why he is the love of so many people. I swear to God, I don't know how many fantasy drafters most likely have a Darnell Mooney tattoo on them. I don't know where they would put it on their body, but it's definitely a thing that these drafters have Darnell Mooney tattoos because, I'm sorry, not Darnell Mooney tattoos, but more specifically, Terry McLaurin tattoos, because there's no way to get more hate thrown in your direction than suggesting that Terry McLaurin is not a wide receiver 1 in fantasy and instead he's a wide receiver 2. And then all of a sudden, people are threatening your firstborn child that isn't even born yet. It is wild. Okay, so Zach Moss going here at the 1302. Okay, Bob the God says you should be taking Terry McLaurin over those other wide receivers because Ryan Fitzpatrick is better than Alex Smith. Yes, that is true, my man. But is Ryan Fitzpatrick better than Justin Fields? Is he better than Justin Herbert? I think the answer to that is no. I don't even think he's better than Jameis Winston, to be completely honest. Evergreen says, my breakout wide receiver this season is Mike Williams. Any opinions? My man, I've been there. I felt that pain with Mike Williams. The thing is, I understand the targets look like they're available in the offense, but the problem is his usage in the offense, where he has such a high average depth of target, where literally he has led the NFL multiple seasons and yards per target. I'm sorry, not yards per target, average depth of target, where he is almost exclusively a deep threat. He's another example of a wide receiver that's much better in the NFL compared to what he brings in fantasy. So Mike Williams, not a massive fan. Okay, so let's go. Spack saying Terry McLaurin over Randy Moss. I know, my man. Isaac says Fitzpatrick definitely better than Jameis Winston. They're super similar, though. I don't necessarily think we can go there, to be completely honest. I mean, there's a reason that if you look over the past 6 years, Ryan Fitzpatrick has averaged 8 games per year in the amount of games that he's actually started. Exactly. Baca says Fitz is no sure thing to start the entire year. Yes, like I just said, I mean, he's literally averaged 8 games starting. Who knows how long Fitzpatrick is actually going to be there? I would guess that, of course, he's going to be starting more than 8 games, but at the same time, that's a 38-year-old quarterback. A 38-year-old quarterback, I think that's about the time he's going to fall off. I mean, we saw the fall off with Ben Roethlisberger, and we know that Ryan Fitzpatrick has dealt with a ton of injuries through his career, and we know that he's that DGAF quarterback. I mean, he's going to take big hits. So who knows how many games he's actually starting for Washington. Okay, Evergreen says, Mason, start, bench, cut, Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, Calvin Johnson. Man, I am about to be 23 years old. You think I know anything about Jerry Rice? Really, Calvin Johnson is the player of my era, so I'm going to have to be keeping Calvin Johnson, cutting Randy Moss, because I think that if you look back then, I understand that the stats are absurd. I understand that he was doing stuff at age 40 that literally no other wide receiver in the NFL could ever dream of doing. But I'm of the opinion that if you're looking at really any sports leagues, if you get that far back, players are going to be significantly worse. I mean, I would make the argument that back then, smoking cigarettes in the locker room, drinking soda at halftime, are we really thinking that they're living up to a Tyreek Hill? Like, you put Tyreek Hill next to Jerry Rice in the same era, and I know it's not fair to compare these players in different eras because we know so much more about just sports exercise and how these players should eat and train. But essentially, literally, if you want to know what player across era would be a better talent if they were playing at their peak form back to back, it's going to be whatever player is closer to present day. It's honestly so simple. Okay, so now let's try to get back on the board. Let's try to stop looking at questions that we shouldn't really concern ourselves with. And Ben Roethlisberger goes at the 1307. Okay, so at wide receiver, you got Denzel Mims, Dynasty Brown, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk, Dwayne Eskridge, Marvin Jones, T.Y. Hilton, Josh Palmer. Brian Edwards is slightly interesting. Okay, tight end, you got Higbee, Gronk, Hooper, Ertz, Jarwin, Everett. So Brian Edwards does go right after we say he was kind of interesting. Nico Collins goes at the 1309 as well. Okay, so Nick says, my case for Terry. Samuel and Brown's targets will get taken away from Thomas, who was very inefficient. The offense will be improved with Fitz, growth from Gibby, and added weapons. I think that is a very fair assessment to have. I think that I agree with you that Logan Thomas is going to see less routes run. He's going to see less targets, and those are going to be going slightly over to Dynasty Brown and Curtis Samuel. Now, I'll say how many of those can just go to those wide receivers is in question because obviously Logan Thomas didn't have that many targets. But at the same time, I mean, just Allen Robinson has been a wide receiver that's top 10 consistently with Blake Bortles, with Mitchell Trubisky at his quarterback position. I don't understand it. Okay, so now let's go and let's try to figure out where we're going to be going with this upcoming pick. Okay, so East Midi, let's actually do a recap real quick. I actually no, let's wait until we get our picks off the board, and then we can go through and look at some other teams. Kenneth Gainwell goes here. I really, really hate that Kenneth Gainwell pick. I mean, I think there are multiple other running backs that we would rather have over Kenneth Gainwell at this point. Okay, Emmanuel Sanders goes. Okay, so we're easily locking in Tyler Higbee here. Tyler Higbee is going to be an easy pick for us. Higbee, someone I hated last offseason, but his situation has gotten 10 million times better. Now, beyond that, I think we actually look to get a third running back. Surprising, but I think that's going to be the right call. I think we get someone that has a lot of guaranteed money with his contract. So what we're going to be going Tyler Higbee for our third tight end in a row. And then we're going to be going Kenyon Drake for our third running back. So to recap this team so far, at running back, Swift, Dobbins, and Kenyon Drake. At wide receiver, Adams, Hopkins, DJ Moore, Mike Evans, Juju, Rashad Bateman, Michael Gallup, Terrace Marshall. At tight end, Mike Gesicki, Logan Thomas, Cole Kmet, and Tyler Higbee. So we actually went 4 tight ends in a row there. That's why I didn't want to be getting those tight ends up here, because I definitely preferred the value that we had once we got to this range. Let's see what teams don't have tight ends yet, because we have 4. There has to be multiple teams without a single one. Or I could be completely wrong here. Maybe we waited that long on tight end. So it looks like every team has a tight end, and all of a sudden we have 4. That tight end position is deep. And guys, also, I will say this is a tight end premium league where you have 6 flex spots and it's best ball as well. So I don't have to try to figure out what week I am going to be starting Mike Gesicki, Logan Thomas, Cole Kmet, or Tyler Higbee either. I mean, just whenever they pop off, they can either slide into a flex or they can slide into the tight end position. Okay, so Atwell, Devin Singletary going. Tutu Atwell is interesting in best ball given his elite speed, but obviously the size is going to prohibit him from ever being a high volume wide receiver. Devin Singletary at the 1409. Hopefully this draft starts going a little bit quicker. We are going to be live for another 20 to 30 minutes, but after that, we are going to have to be ending the stream. We're going to be switching it over to a slow draft. Okay, so Austin Hooper at the 1404. Obviously, after we go through and we draft so many tight ends, we would like to see more tight ends go off, because I don't want to be having to draft any of them anytime soon. I actually really do like that Kenyon Drake pick the more I think about it, because he is someone that can get usage in the receiving game. I wish Sleeper would add the contract details of players. If you pulled it up, like, it would be really cool if they had a button right here that just says Kenyon Drake. Because actually what we can do right now is we can go over, I can pull up the Kenyon Drake contract on another window and drag it over, because Kenyon Drake is actually a player that we took in the high stakes league as well. And a big thing I want to point out is the fact that this is someone that got a massive, massive contract. I mean, he got, I don't want to say in the same realm of, I don't want to even bring up Aaron Jones, but he got very similar in terms of the amount of guaranteed money that he had. He signed for $11 million guaranteed. I mean, he's locked into this team, and at the same time, you would think that they have a role planned for him if you're giving him that kind of money. I mean, in comparison, James Conner is someone that got like $2 million. It was ridiculous, that Kenyon Drake contract, and I think that makes him a pretty safe pick in fantasy. And we know also at the same time, if anything happens to Josh Jacobs, that's a player that can vault up into his starting 3-down role. Yeah, Jay, and I will say, man, I completely agree with you having Allen Robinson over Terry McLaurin. I think it's the easy call, but you can't necessarily pull in contracts with it, given the fact that, I mean, Terry McLaurin's playing under his rookie contract, drafted at the end of round 3. I mean, that's not going to be a great contract regardless, and he's only 2 years into his NFL career. He can't necessarily have any kind of leverage to negotiate a new deal at all. Okay, so Devin Singletary, Gus Edwards, Leonard Fournette going in the middle of around 14. So you do have I don't even want to call it a run on running back. Of course, I don't necessarily like drafting the running back after we already have those guys that we feel comfortable about at the top. So I would like to see more running backs going off the board. But let me know what y'all think of me taking Kenyon Drake over Leonard Fournette. I know a lot of people probably don't agree with that one, but just with Kenyon Drake, I think the contract indicates that he is someone that's going to have 2 years of value compared to Leonard Fournette, who's only signed through 1 year, but I could easily be persuaded to go the other direction. Okay, so now we can go through, we can pop back up these teams. Let me hide my little screen real quick. That way everybody can see what's going on. Ooh, let's cancel that. I almost took it off completely. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we already covered my team. Let's look at super packs right now, who I just really want to be looking at the roster construction for these guys, where at quarterback, they have Dak and Ryan Fitzpatrick. So possibly super packs, like he was saying, he was trying to come for Ryan Tannehill. Maybe he sends us an offer. Who knows? But anyway, only 2 quarterbacks in that team. Just trying to see things that stand out. So here, East Mitty takes Kyle Pitts in the 3rd. And this is what I agree with. I don't necessarily love the value of Kyle Pitts, but if you take someone that highly, you can't necessarily be spending a bunch of draft picks with them later on. That's why I decided to be passing on those guys. Like we previously stated, I didn't want to be forced into taking a tight end here and not have the option at going with this range, because I really wanted to hit this range extremely hard. I mean, getting a guy like Tyler Higbee compared to Emmanuel Sanders, or someone like a Cole Kmet over an Amon-Ra St. Brown, I wanted to take advantage of that value. So that's why we decided to pass on someone like a Kyle Pitts. Now, Zach here, a very balanced approach. Looks like nothing stands out besides he's not extremely strong at running back, but I don't think you have to be in this format. Now, Juice, this is an interesting team because obviously he pays up extremely to get up to those 101 and 102 picks. And from there, he goes through at his running back position, CMC, Mixon, Davis, and Gus Edwards. At quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, Daniel Jones, and Jameis Winston. Tight end, Jonnu Smith, and Adam Troutman. At wide receiver, Brandon Cooks, Corey Davis, Will Fuller, McCole Hardman, and Gabriel Davis. Now, let's see what this is. Okay, it looks like a very balanced approach here as well. 2 tight ends. You have 3 quarterbacks, and then a nice mix of running back and wide receiver. Cherry Duck here. See, this is another thing I want to point out. This is, in my opinion, the correct way to approach this. If you go through, if you invest 2 first-round picks into the quarterback position, and you invest a second-round pick into tight end, I think from there on out, you can only really draft running backs and wide receivers unless you have a crazy value fall to you. So I don't necessarily know if I agree with the specific draft picks with where they went, but from a strategy standpoint, once you commit and going this direction, I think it's 100% the valid thing to do in hammering in those wide receivers and running backs later on. So Benny, another thing, he takes that elite tight end. He doesn't take another one for a very long time. Like I said, I was trashing Baker Mayfield earlier on the stream, but the 808 is very good value. I think that's where he should be going. And yeah, he does handcuff Ezekiel Elliott with Tony Pollard. Y'all know I don't love that. But Karth, again, if we go through here, you only have Evan Ingram at tight end. So it looks like a lot of my own Dynasty teams. At quarterback, Trey Lance, Carson Wentz, Kirk Cousins. Then a nice mix of both running back and wide receiver, with the majority of the wide receiver value being at the top and running backs at the end. Now, Kevin here, he's been hammering in those wide receivers. So it looks like he goes running back early, and he stops drafting running back after the 6th round. Man, I love that strategy in a format like this. This is very similar to what we did in the last stream. Now, Collegiate Money goes through, has Russ and Derek Carr at QB. At tight end, a nice mix of top-end talent and that depth. And then at wide receiver, very weak at wide receiver. I'll say this is, I don't want to say the weakest team in the league, because I think Juice is definitely in the competition for that as well. It's going to be weak at wide receiver there. And Spence Dog has gone through. This is the draft I didn't really understand. I don't know what trade he made to be really just at a very large disadvantage with the lack of picks that he has, because obviously not being able to pick in this range kind of killed him when this is the range that we targeted. I really wanted to have as many picks here as we possibly could. Okay, let's turn that back on. Let's see what has happened since we turned off the live draft. Okay, so you have Tony Pollard, Chuba Hubbard going off the board as those handcuff running backs. You have Gronk as an high upside tight end. You have Denzel Mims, Diami Brown, and Cole Beasley. I love that value of Diami Brown. I mean, Diami Brown before the NFL draft was someone that we were lower on compared to consensus. But that was back when he was getting valued at a higher range compared to Henry Ruggs. And I was going, okay, that is crazy. But if you're getting him here right behind Denzel Mims, I would rather have Diami Brown over Denzel Mims every day of the week. Okay. So Drew says, I believe news just broke the other day. Kenyon Drake will be used more in the passing game and sometimes split out at wide receiver. Honestly, if there was ever going to be a team that would happen on, I think it would be the Raiders, given the fact that there's a lack of talent there. Okay, but Gerald Everett goes, I would have loved to have Gerald Everett fall back to us at the 15-12. Gerald Everett, that's a fantastic pick there. Okay, so a lot of people think Spencer Rattler is going to be the 101 next year. I think Sam Howell actually goes ahead of Spencer Rattler in the NFL draft, but given Spencer Rattler's rushing ability, I agree that I think he would most likely go the 101 in rookie drafts next offseason. Okay, Broad Guy says, you like Drake over James Conner in Dynasty or redraft? I definitely prefer having Kenyon Drake over James Conner in Dynasty, given the fact that Kenyon Drake is going to have 2 years on this deal where James Conner only has 1. And redraft, I think it's really going to be up to you where you can make the argument for either player. But for Dynasty, I definitely prefer having Kenyon Drake. Okay, but yeah, if you go to the best available right now, I mean, you're going to see that wide receivers have been eaten up in this league where you go running back, quarterback. We don't have to say it, but we can just scroll and you can see that, I mean, best available wide receiver is way down the board here at Marvin Jones. I mean, you go way up to see anybody else. Okay, Isaac says, my league has a tight end / wide receiver flex. Should this alter my draft strategy? Is this replacing the tight end position, or is that just replacing the regular flex? Please let me know. Like, are you not going to be having to start a tight end and instead you have that ability to start a wide receiver in that spot as well? Or is it just the flex spots in your league, you can't start a running back? Because either way, it definitely does affect your strategy. And we've covered both settings over there on Patreon with podcasts. So please clarify so I can kind of dive in to exactly how I'm going to be changing things. Okay. So Connor, Blake Jarwin, and Raheem Mostert. So it looks like not many wide receivers are going after they dry up earlier in this draft. But like I said, I think the main wide receiver value out of this few rounds was going to be Dyami Brown there at the 14-12. I almost considered taking him over Kenyon Drake. Okay, so if we go through, try to figure out where we are going to be drafting with this upcoming pick, there are some running backs that are intriguing. Marvin Jones goes, I would have loved to have Marvin Jones. Quarterback, let me see if we did a good job of getting stacks with this team. Okay, so obviously we have Stafford and a part of the Rams. The only Rams offense we have is Tyler Higbee. With the Tennessee Titans and Ryan Tannehill, we don't have anybody with Tua. We have Mike Gesicki. So honestly, we didn't do a great job stacking this team, but I think that the values with where we took players so good that I am honestly completely fine with it. Okay, so Drew Lock goes at the 1508. Drew Lock goes ahead of Teddy Bridgewater. Please, guys, let me know who y'all are thinking between Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, because obviously that's going to impact a lot. Okay, so now let's go and see. Okay, Nick says, any chance Breece Hall is the 101 next year? Yes, obviously there's a chance. It's going to mainly depend on the landing spot, but there are not that many running backs coming out over the next few years. I'm sorry, until the 2023 draft. So I think Breece Hall definitely has a chance to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft, which obviously gives him that 4-year deal with the 5th-year option, which you love to see in Dynasty. That's a big reason why I'm so high on both Najee Harris and Travis Etienne. So yeah, Breece Hall has a chance. It's definitely going to depend on the landing spot, though. If it's the 101, I mean, if it's a one-quarterback league, then yeah, Breece Hall looks like he's going to be the 101. Okay, so Darrell Henderson goes here. Darrell Henderson, the guy that I wanted, great pick at the 15-10. Okay, so now if we go through, try to figure out where you're going to be going. That was just a great pick with Darrell Henderson, to be completely honest. At tight end, really, there's nobody. I would have loved to have Gerald Everett or O.J. Howard fall to us here, but it didn't happen, so kind of can't sit here and cry about it. Got to keep on looking. Okay, Naheem Hines goes, okay, this is what we wanted. I probably would have taken him over one of these past two players, especially in a best ball format. I mean, KJ Hamler is a massive value here. Now that we have tight end, running back, quarterback all situated, I think we can continue to hammer in these wide receivers. I think we go KJ Hamler and then Dwayne Eskridge as two field stretching options where in a regular league it's probably going to be very hard to determine when you're going to start them. But given that this is a best ball league where I don't have to set my starting lineup and they're going to be our wide receiver 9 and 10, I mean, I love the potential of those young guys on their rookie deals that have that speed of possibly busting out a 30-point week any point this season, preferably in the playoffs, of course. But I love getting KJ Hamler and Dwayne Eskridge there. I mean, that fits the roster perfectly. I know a lot of people probably would prefer having T.Y. Hilton, but I mean, I'm not drafting T.Y. Hilton as a wide receiver 10. I'm trying to get guys that we think could increase in value 12 months from now. Okay. Isaac says Locke will start the season. Teddy and Locke will flip through the season like 2018 Bucks. So 2018 Bucks like Jameis and Ryan Fitzpatrick. But I don't know if we can say that for sure. I would really like to see Watson in Denver. I know that's a pipe dream at this point, but it's just going to be such a gross situation. And that's why I'm kind of avoiding all those Denver players for this upcoming year, like a Jerry Jeudy, a Cortland Sutton in 2021 fantasy leagues. I definitely want to be avoiding those guys. But it's just because the quarterback situation is so gross. Okay, so Kyle Trask, Jacoby Myers goes at the 1604. So Jacoby Myers, I believe he is going to be the highest drafted New England Patriots wide receiver in this league. Okay, so let's hide that screen so everybody can see this real quick. If you want to take a screenshot, and we can go through and just click on this. We'll go really fast to show everybody the updated thing. If you want to pause it and check out the teams and see who you like stacking up. Okay, so now Josh Palmer going. Josh Palmer, definitely someone you could have considered drafting over Dwayne Eskridge or KJ Hamler. A main reason that we wanted to get one of those guys is I really like getting those field stretchers once we get this deep and guys that could randomly pop off for a spike week. So yeah, Josh Palmer in a regular format, though, you could definitely go through and try to make an argument to have him over either guy. Isaac says, who do you think is the best value with their ADP currently in Dynasty Superflex? Not in flock leagues, because in flock leagues, he doesn't last that long. But I have seen so many other startups where if I'm breaking down a league for someone on Patreon, you see Trey Lance, who goes at the 208 here. Trey Lance falling to the 4th round in a Superflex startup, which is the most ridiculous thing that I have ever seen in my entire life. Trey Lance, I promise you, I can guarantee it, is going to be a top 10 quarterback in Dynasty next year. And literally, that's worst case scenario. I'm saying absolute worst case scenario is Trey Lance is a top 10 quarterback in Dynasty next year because of his rushing production and his guaranteed job and what it means for him. Worst case scenario, he's Jalen Hurts who starts for 4 years. I mean, Trey Lance is literally, I think I've been drafting him consistently at the beginning of the second round of Dynasty startup drafts. And I think he's almost, I don't want to say a lock to go in the first. He's a lock to be a second round pick next year. I can guarantee that. But he has a decent shot of being a first round Dynasty startup pick next offseason. Scott says, I took Trey Lance at the 402 in a Superflex that I'm drafting right now. That is ridiculous because we know in fantasy what matters at the quarterback position is rushing production. It unlocks just that cheat code for you. And of course, with the Jalen Hurts, you can't value him as a top 12 startup pick, given the fact that he has that second round NFL draft capital. And we know that he's going to be highly productive in every game that he starts. But the question is, how many games does he actually start? What does the job security look like? Where Trey Lance, you don't have that question. We have seen that if you're a bust at the quarterback position and you get drafted in the top 3, it doesn't matter. Look at Sam Darnold. Look at Mitchell Trubisky. Look at Blake Bortles. Worst case scenario, they're starting for 4 years in the NFL. And we know worst case scenario with Trey Lance, he's averaging 40 rushing yards a game. So, I mean, it's such an easy evaluation that it's boring for me to talk about, but Trey Lance is the best value in Dynasty. Baca says, would you trade Trevor Lawrence for Trey Lance plus? Yes, 100% easily. Scott says, Burrow, Akers, Etienne, and Lance were my first 4 picks. That is fantastic. I mean, I would die to have that start in all of my leagues. Now, Noah Gray going at the 16-10. I thought about making a video talking about this Noah Gray hype because we have gotten so many questions on Patreon about Noah Gray. I don't necessarily see the hype, but at the 16-10, I don't actually know. It's a bad pick. I'm going to say it's a bad pick. You have Zach Ertz available. You have Dawson Knox available. I don't necessarily like that. I would rather have T.Y. Hilton. As dumb as that sounds, I hate T.Y. Hilton. I mean, I'd rather have Teddy Bridgewater. I'd rather have Kellen Mond. Taysom Hill goes at the 16-12. Isaac says, I respect the confidence, but I don't think I can bring myself to use a second-round pick for an unproven player that was my 4th-ranked quarterback in this year's draft class. Man, Isaac, you have him confidently as your 4th-ranked quarterback in this year's draft class when we saw NFL talent evaluators go out of their way to give up the 12th overall selection plus 2 future picks to make sure that they go, okay, we really don't want to be sitting at 12 have to pick Justin Fields where he eventually almost fell to. Instead, let's give up 2 future picks. Let's go get Trey Lance at the 103. Let's bring him in behind a great offensive line. Let's give him the best tight end in the game. Let's give him a great wide receiver duo in Brandon Ayuk and, Deebo Samuel. And at the same time, let's give him one of the best coaches in the game. I think you're way too confident in your own quarterback evaluations when we know that historically the dynasty community and fantasy football players in particular have been hilariously bad at evaluating quarterbacks coming into the NFL. I could never be that bold to say that NFL talent evaluators are that wrong when really people hated in dynasty Justin Herbert and Josh Allen in rookie drafts. They come out, they completely smash because NFL talent evaluators, for the most part, are significantly smarter than dynasty players. At least when it comes to the quarterback position, because quarterback is extremely hard to look at with just numbers. There's so much that goes into that. Okay, so we got through a ton of this draft. We actually have had 20 picks so far. Anthony Firkser at the 1701. I definitely like Firkser over Noah Gray. Okay, so Jimmy G at the 1702. Okay, so let me scroll down real quick so everybody can see this entire draft board. I will smooth this over as well. Okay, so I see J. Colo coming out as same talent evaluators that traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. Man, they traded a second-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. That was not a bad deal at all. And they say, and made him the highest paid quarterback. Man, that was a fake contract. You can't just look at overall numbers when you're evaluating contracts in the NFL. What you really have to do is you have to look at guaranteed money. We pull up the Jimmy Garoppolo contract right now to actually see what the guaranteed money ended up looking like. So let's see if he was actually the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Okay, so it looks like if you pull this up. Okay, my computer is lagging right now. Okay, so guaranteed salary, it literally, he had no dead cap after 2020. The guaranteed money that he got was $67,000. That is an average quarterback guaranteed money since. So they traded a second-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. They gave him the average money for a starting quarterback at the NFL level. That is, of course, not great, but don't act like they got that horribly, horribly, horribly wrong. Isaac says NFL talent evaluators also traded up for Josh Rosen. Man, also, the Dynasty community, if you don't remember, back in 2018, the Dynasty community literally had it consensus. They had it consensus that Josh Rosen was a better player than Josh Allen. If anybody came out on a podcast and said Josh Allen was a quarterback that you wanted over Josh Rosen, people laughed. They would laugh at your face. Josh Rosen was like the 107 rookie pick in Superflex rookie drafts that year, compared to Josh Allen, who was an early second round rookie pick that year. Yes, of course, it's not a solved science on going through and evaluating those quarterbacks coming into the NFL. Why we are saying it's one of the hardest things that you can do, and why I'm saying that Joe Schmo that's sitting here watching YouTube videos of all 22 film can't really tell you how quarterback traits are going to translate to the NFL level. And because it's so hard, people get paid 6-figure salaries, entire teams, to go through and try to do that just as their one job on planet Earth. So I think it's probably a little bit smarter to look at what teams are telling us. And that's why I'm going to be leaving it to them. And also the draft capital, even if they're wrong, the rushing production is going to be there, where worst case scenario, he's a high-end quarterback too on a points per game basis. And we already established that the draft capital, the team investment, gives him the longest leash you could ever ask for. So by staying completely objective with it, and by saying that I am an idiot and I can't sit there and I can't watch the all 22 tape or look at any one given number and know how a quarterback's going to translate to the NFL, and neither can any single person in this live stream right now, or you would be getting paid most likely $300,000 to $400,000 to be a part of the some team's war room where you can go through and you can evaluate those quarterbacks. Okay, so now we're going to be easily taking Ramondre Stevenson here, possibly T.Y. Hilton. So Stevenson's going to be easy because he's a running back that you can see carving out a role on his offense. And at the same time, if anything happened to Damian Harris, he could be a 3-down running back. But beyond that, we are going to be placed, I don't want to say in a difficult decision, but it's not going to be just anything staring us in the face, because if we take Stevenson, I really don't want to be drafting a 5th running back already. So I think we take Stevenson and possibly go over to the tight end position or QB. Davis Mills is someone that literally has no upside. I think Tyrod Taylor would start in that situation, and it would be the worst starting quarterback situation in the entire NFL. So we go Stevenson, and I don't want to go running back, but I don't know if we have any other option, because at wide receiver, are we really taking T.Y. Hilton? Y'all know how much I hate T.Y. Hilton. Let's scroll down. Let's scroll down, see if there's... See, by the time we get that low, those players could come back to us. Maybe go Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz 32? No, just 30. But he was so incredibly inefficient last year, even when he was healthy. Okay, running back. I think running back doesn't even dry up. I think we just go T.Y. Hilton. I hate it, but it is what it is. In the 18th round in a best ball format, I'm going to be fine with it. Okay, so people claiming that Zach sniped him again on Kellen Mond. So yeah, no, guys, don't worry. Zach is getting removed from the league. You don't have to worry about that at all. Okay, so Salvin Ahmad, Javion Hawkins, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I literally scroll. Oh my God, are you kidding me? I literally scrolled down, looked at Donovan Peoples-Jones, went, we can get this guy in the next round, guaranteed, and Zach takes him. Oh, this isn't even a bit. This isn't a joke. This is just ridiculous. But it looks like, guys, we are most likely going to be ending this live stream in about 2 minutes. So I want to give a massive thank you for everybody who's come out, hung out with us during this live stream. And of course, if you have not, for whatever reason, already, subscribe to the channel, drop a like. And if you want to get into our next startup draft, we are going to be announcing one over there on Patreon tomorrow night. So please be on the lookout for that over there on Patreon. I'll also be in the Discord chat. But yeah, thank you, my dudes. I think we will be around for another 90 seconds or so. And then we will be having to log off, and we'll be having to turn this into a slow drop. But it looks like we do have Cherry Duck on auto right now. I think he autoed both Alexander Madison and Philip Lindsay. So for his own sake, it's most likely a good thing that the stream and the draft is about to switch over to an 8-hour timer. Kevin says, thanks, Mason. Noah Gray to the moon. My man, before we end the stream, you got to give me your bullish case on Noah Gray. Let me know what is going on with Noah Gray. Let me know what I am missing here. Zach Ertz goes at the 1807. I like the Zach Ertz selection. We honestly probably should have gone Zach Ertz over T.Y. Hilton, to be completely honest. But we already had 4 tight ends. I don't think we need to kick ourselves too much for that. And I will go through, show this board one more time if anybody wants to take a screenshot, if anybody wants to really dive into it. And of course, we'll show off this beautiful, beautiful best ball team where we have Swift, Dobbins, Drake, Stevenson at running back. Wide receiver, we are just going to be crushing people. Adams, Hopkins, Moore, Evans, Juju, Bateman, Gallup, Marshall, Hamler, Eskridge, Hilton. But yeah, that should be it, my dudes. And let me go through and show this off. Okay, so Shuba says, hey, Mason, real quick question. How come you took ETN over Gibson in another league, but you took Dobbins over ETN today? A couple of reasons here. One, we thought ETN was going to fall to us at the 405 when we did the ETN over Dobbins the other day. It was mainly based on the fact that we knew there was no chance that he was going to be making it back to us. And on top of this, with what we have, we are going to be looking at so many shares of Travis Etienne already across all my dynasty teams that I really want to be trying to diversify, and I want to be trying to make sure we don't end up with Travis Etienne in every single league. Okay, but let's end this real quick. Let me go over here, pause this draft. But thank you, my dudes, for coming out. Like I said, we are having the new league being announced on Patreon tomorrow night. And yeah, that should be it. We'll have a lot more this offseason. And drop a like, subscribe,